Council to order and with our committee of the whole for Monday, June 22nd. Our first delegation this morning, 2.1, we have Melina Sweezy in attendance. Melina's city employee who's received some recognition, and we'd like to have Melina come in and good morning.
Morning, how are you?
We're very good. Good morning. So now that we're getting a little bit back to some normalcy and allowing to have some delegations in person, we thought it appropriate that we have Melina come in this morning because she's received a distinguished presentation, and I'd like to read what it has been awarded to her. And so this is the Bar of Service Medal that Melina has received. Melina is an active member of the National Lifeguard Committee and has worked hard to develop a support system in northeastern British Columbia. She has previously received an award for Outstanding Instructor and continues to represent the Society and be a strong mentor to others in northern BC. Melina is also serving as the national trainer in our region. So the Bar of Service Medal was awarded to those who have previously earned a service medal and have dedicated a minimum of 8 years of volunteer service to the Society. And so the award was presented on March 7th, and we're finally able to have Melina here this morning. So congratulations, thank you on behalf of City of Dawson Creek and all our residents. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Our next delegation this morning is joining us via audio conference on the phone. It's Mr. Steve Kitney from PBR Enterprises Limited, and he's representing McDonald's and A&W restaurants in attendance regarding a request to amend the sign regulation bylaw. Steve, so if you can hear us, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak with you this morning, your worship, honorable city councilors. As just said, my name is Steve Kidney. I'm the operations manager for PBR Enterprises McDonald's Restaurants in Dawson Creek and Port St. John. And on behalf of the owner-operator, Brian Boretsky, we are asking you to reconsider bylaw 4369-2018 6.6K to allow for a portable sign in addition to a digital sign on business properties. The A&W management has also expressed this desire, as well as a number of local additional businesses, including one of whom was recently denied this signage. Andrew from Magnet Signs, who supplies some of the portable signs as well, has also asked that this bylaw be reconsidered. We believe that having only one more additional portable sign in conjunction with the digital display will still allow for safe driving conditions in a professional-looking business district, particularly with the updated digital signage regulations. Business signage is critical for all of us to communicate directly with potential customers, and as we all know, local businesses are a critical component to the City of Dawson Creek. A healthy, vibrant business community is important to all stakeholders, especially the many residents whom we employ. The current pandemic has been challenging for all of us, including local businesses. We have made and are continuing to make significant financial investments in order to reopen safely. Many local business sales are down due to closures, partial closures, changing customer patterns, and the financial impact the pandemic has had on the consumer. As businesses start to reopen again, the current headwinds are perhaps the biggest challenge that businesses have ever faced. Given this new reality, we are asking for this council's continued support in working with the business community to continue creating the conditions where local businesses can prosper, grow, and a city where new businesses continue to be attracted to. Thank you again for your consideration on this matter.
Thank you, Steve. Council, any questions? Councillor Earl?
Just really quickly, just jog my memory, either staff or Steve, if you know off the top of your head. You mentioned local businesses already denied this. Do you know who that was? Do we know who that was? You guys? Okay, good to know. Co-ops here, they just put their hand up and suggested it was them, so I'll assume that's the case. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Wilbur?
Good morning, Mr. Kitney, and thank you for bringing this to council. I believe you currently have a magnetic sign or a sign board on top of your digital sign. Do you know offhand when that was placed?
Yes, that was, we've had it for quite some time now, maybe. I mean, we've been paying permit fees for maybe 5 years, 4 years, roughly.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Further questions, council? Steve, just for clarification, it's Mayor Bumstead. Can you tell me, you represent McDonald's and A&W or just McDonald's?
No, I'm the McDonald's operations manager, but I've talked to the management in E&W. They also have had to take down their signage. They have a digital reader board and they have a portable sign as well. So they've had to take down their signage as we have had to too. So the city has said that they weren't compliant with the bylaws. So I mentioned that I'd be speaking to you, and they had asked if they could be also on record as requesting reconsideration for this bylaw.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for the clarification. Any further questions from council? All right, so thank you. Steve, so thank you. We appreciate your time this morning and giving us this request. We will deal with it under Mayor's business. We bring it back as a delegation request later in our agenda. And it will be dealt with at that time by council.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us.
Okay.
Thank
Bye-bye.
Our next delegation, 2.3 this morning, is Deanna Larson and Rod Hillary in attendance from the co-op in regards to the same sign regulation bylaw, number 4369. Rod, good morning. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. It's nice to have you here in person this morning.
Thank you, and good morning, Mayor and Council. Similar to Mr. Kitney, we had a warning issued to the Dawson Co-op with a sign violation. There's just some discrepancies on 6.6 and 6.6C and 6.6K, which we wanted some qualification on and some clarification on. The actual warning highlighted 6.6K, which says a portable sign is not permitted on a lot that has any sign with a digital display. But 6.6C says, in no case shall more than one portable sign be permitted at any one time on any one business premise. So we're just looking for some clarification on that, if there was some one part of the bylaw superseded the other one or not. So similar to Mr. Kitney too, we are appealing that Mayor and Council look at the bylaw. We also are in a unique situation as we have 11 tenants, and it's not accommodating for our tenants as well either. If they can't be permitted to have a portable sign on our property, they would have to use our digital sign, and of course that brings into a whole bunch of different other things with them preparing the signs and what have you. So I don't know if there's any questions on that. Again, we feel too that via multiple platforms, we'd be looking at that just to have, rather than just one or the other, two sets of signage would be better for us.
Okay, thank you, Rod. Questions for Rod from council? Anyone? Councillor Wilbur?
Same question to you, Rod. Do you know when the portable sign was first placed at the co-op? I believe different businesses have used it, but
yeah, multiple. We have a tax accountant in our mall as a tenant, so they obviously are basically from January to April. We have our Booster Juice and Shop Leaf, so there's seasonal things that are put on as well in our food store. We have seasonal stuff that's put on. So, and we have 11 tenants, so it's really handcuffing to them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Further questions for Rod? Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Worship, and thank you. Good to see you, Rod. So with 11 tenants, are you finding that one additional sign is sufficient, or is there an appetite from other tenants within the building to have more options around signs?
I think if we have a portable sign and the ability for a digital sign, that would be good. The thing with the digital signs is the graphics have to be done properly, and then they have to be properly basically modified to hit the thing there. And a lot of them don't have the capability to do that. So that's why they go with the portable signs. So it's off and on. And we understand too, you can't have 11 signs out there as well too. But there should be a balance between having no signs and having 11 signs. There needs to be a balance in the middle there somewhere.
And as you guys do state in your letter, it's not, I don't know that the policy was initially devised with a mall in mind, as opposed to individual businesses on their own property, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? So, thank you, Rod and Deanna, and we'll deal with this. It'll come back under Mayor's business under our delegation request
Great.
later in the agenda, and Council will deal with it at that time.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And you're more than welcome to stay and join us.
Appreciate it.
We haven't had deal group.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Parsons.
I'm not sure if the sound systems work.
Are you picking up? Yep. 2.4, our next delegation this morning, we have Dawson Bernard from General Manager of Spectre Venue, and this morning to give us the 2019 Encana Events Annual Report. Good morning, Dustin. Welcome.
For your worship, council administration.
Good to have you here.
Thank you for allowing us the time to come and present the 2019 annual report. Obviously, with everything going on, COVID related over the last few months, 2019 seems like a long time away from now, but I want to take the next few minutes to just kind of walk you through a few of the highlights that the Spectre team at the Encana Event Center as well as Tourism Dawson Creek have accomplished over the past year. So just jumping to page 10, Encana Event Center financial highlights. This is just a quick highlighted breakdown of the overall success of the venue over the past year. On a monthly basis, we provide the City of Dawson Creek with updated financials and updates on how the business is going. As you can see, in 2019, 82 events were hosted at the building, encompassing 132 event days, and bringing in just under 72,000 people into the venue. Another kind of big highlight that we've kind of done over the last couple of years is really kind of tracking our hotel activity as well as tours come in and events of all levels, their promoters, etc., stay in the community. We always track that number of direct bookings to our accommodator. So it's great to kind of create benchmarks and see how we're doing in that activity. So you can see the event center directly booked 401 hotel rooms for 1,339 hotel nights. As we kind of jump through, I'll just kind of pull out a few of the highlights within the document. I handed everybody our hard copy. You can kind of see in the calendar of events just a wide range of events, from annual things that continue to happen, such as the Beef Congress, Lobster Fest, new community events that we create within the building, such as Easter extravagances. The gun sportsman show is an annual event now, all the way to like major sporting events such as the World Junior A Hockey Challenge that was completed back in December. Just kind of jump through again. Another program that I'd like to highlight on is the Tickets and the Peace program. This started a few years ago, and the whole concept was around providing creating extended reach outside of just the building, creating that professional ticketing and marketing service to other events within the community and within the region. So this program has continued to grow year over year. Obviously all of these type of events don't just happen by a few people. As you can kind of see on page 16 and 17, we have a very talented crew of event and visitor center and tourism staff within the team that are all local and trained local, and it ranges from operations to marketing to ticketing, etc. So pretty proud of this team and all the challenges in 2019 that these individuals faced and pursued on the event side, but also with different changes in our organization in 2019. The other kind of highlight that I want to just pull out is Co-op Mercer Hall on page 20 and 21. 2019 was the first full calendar year that this area was fully utilized and completed, and being able to book different conferences, meetings, weddings, and then also testing out the space with smaller shows such as Econoline Crush and the Tragically Hip cover band. All those types of things were really assisted in utilizing that space over 2019. So you can kind of just see, with 3,600 people walk through that space or utilize that space for over the past 12 months. Another great asset within the building is, of course, the Wayne and Doug Dolan walking track. This asset continues to get utilized on a monthly basis. The first quarter is obviously gets used the most, January, February, with the climate outside in the Peace region, and January was the busiest month, and December, January, and February are usually the busiest months year over year, utilizing that part of the building. As we kind of jump into the tourism side of the report, 2019 was a banner year in terms of the sports and events tourism strategy. It was a directive that the company had to, really push this element within our tourism plan. And thank you to Mayor and Council for the support in this, and being able to, bring and host events such as the WHL series with the Oil Kings and Prince George Cougars, and talking to staff and people in the community on the impact that had within the greater community overall was a great success. And there's a number of different letters and correspondence from a wide range of people, all the way from the WHL to the teams to the organizing committees to the Hospital Foundation, everybody that helped support this event. Another big part of the sport event strategy, of course, is our 5-year hosting agreement with Hockey Canada, and last year it was our first event of that 5-year agreement, and the opportunity to host 5 teams during the World Junior A Hockey Challenge in December. So again, this was kind of in that midst of just completing the PBR rodeo, flipping the building to a world-class hockey event, back over to Johnny Reed, and then finishing off the tournament later that week. So again, a great event for the community, and as the team kind of prepares for the under-18 women's national event in November, this kind of just solidifies Dawson Creek as that sport and event tourism community. As we kind of jump through the report, there's obviously a number of fun facts. You can see on page 44 during the World Junior A Challenge, our food and beverage team cooked and delivered 6,000 meals to players, coaches, team members, etc. Some popcorn stats. 289,000 ounces of popcorn were sold at the building over the past year. Flipping now over to page 48 through 51. A big part of our continued plan at the building is utilizing the building not just for these large signature events such as the Judas Priest and Toby Keith and the Johnny Reeds of the world, but also creating events such as Oktoberfest and the Health and Wellness Lifestyle Expo, and utilizing the building for an array of different events over the course of the year to fill dark days. So Judy, who's here with me, her and her team really do an excellent job of creating these events from scratch and promoting them and making them a success. With that, charity and community involvement is always an important aspect of everything we do, and in 2019 with the tickets and different assets so that we provide to different community organizations through donations or guitars or merchandise, what have you. We support different community groups up to $119,000 in value in the past 12 months. So with that, I'm not sure if that was 10 minutes or if I'm under 10 minutes yet. Sometimes I get caught with that. But I welcome any questions that Mayor and Council may have at this time.
Thank you, Dustin. Council, question. Councilor Dubekov, Councilor Earl?
Your revenue was $641,000 under your budgeted. Have you analyzed what happened, or?
Are we on page?
Your page 10.
Page 10. So with the revenue of the events, there were a couple things on the event side of things. I'll start on that one. We had some when we go about booking an event, we're always projecting that different sides of how the event is going to turn out in the business plan. Some events over exceeded expectations and some underperformed in other areas. One key thing that kind of when we budgeted, we were budgeting for a couple other events to take place, which didn't pan out as well. One event back in April, Breaking Benjamin, I believe, it had already been put on sale. We had already started selling tickets, and then due to unforeseen circumstances, they pulled the whole tour across Canada. So, that was one instance where we're already budgeting for this event to take place, and then it didn't come to matter. So we weren't able to gain that revenue from the shows like that.
Just a follow-up question. So is that typical how it works each year, or have you gone back and looked at the last 10 years, for example? And
so we always start our budgeting process early in the fall of every year, and submit our budgets at that time. So we always kind of have a good gauge of what the first quarter may look like, because we run off of an 8 to 12 month booking cycle. So in September and October, when we're working on budget, we already have a good idea about what January through March and possibly April look like. And then as we kind of move forward, we're kind of gauging and using averages of what the building has booked over the past 3 years, so that we can kind of book accordingly into the second quarter, third quarter, and fourth quarter, knowing that the third quarter usually is always a slower time as we kind of go into June, July, and August, because the industry, and when I say industry, the touring industry usually focuses on festival bookings in the summertime, as well as we know from the consumer and ticketing purchasing side of things. People have other things to do in June, July, and August, right, where they may not want to go into or utilize their money to purchase entertainment inside a building where there's camping and traveling, etc. So
would it be typical that you lose that much money from your budgeted revenue on an annual basis, or are there years where you actually
on the ticketing side of things, it could range based on the types of events that take place, right? So that 641 is just the gross ticket revenue. So based on the types of shows and the amount of dollars that ticket that was charged for that ticket would also play a factor into that amount. So if we booked, for example, 10 large shows that the ticket price was $100 as an average ticket price, that number would go up.
Councilor Earl?
Thank you. So I just wanted to make one or two quick comments and a question on the tickets in the piece. I think it's great to see that capacity being offered to the region and whatnot. And as someone who was there when it started, it's great to see it grow like this. With respect to the $97,000 in revenue generated, where does that appear on the income or the financial highlight? Is that in the ancillary income? Is that, where would we find that?
So, great question. So, that's the gross tickets sold,
Okay.
right? So that's not what the company brings
Yeah,
in terms of revenue, right?
Okay.
So what we make off of on tickets in the piece is ticketing fees because all of these partners and event organizers use the PACUL and ticketing system, which Spectra manages both in the building and then throughout the Tickets in the Piece program. So where the ticketing fees aspect of it would fall into would be the total other income.
Okay. And one quick follow-up with respect to, because I know the city of Dawson Creek has a number of different agreements with Spectra. We've got Spectra Ovations, I think, has an agreement, and then Tourism Dawson Creek is a separate agreement as well. And I think Corporate Partnerships is under Spectra now. So are tickets in the piece, do they have their own agreement, or is that just under the Spectra contract?
That's under Spectra.
Thank you. Further questions? Thank you, Dustin. Appreciate you guys being in here. Judy, good to see you. Thanks for being here, you guys.
Excellent, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item 3, new councillor business. 3.1, Councillor Javetkov.
So I'll just read my thing here. To demonstrate the recognition and support of Mayor and Council regarding the impacts of COVID-19 on city finances and staff, I'd like to put forward the following motion. That Mayor and Council suspend the 2020 wage increase for the remainder of 2020.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Earl, discussion. Council. Councillor Parslow, Councillor Earl.
Do we have a cost figure on what that would be, the reduction for the 2020 budget, the balance of the year?
Not at this moment, I can find it in a few minutes.
Council increase this year was about $2,000 per annum. So if you got 6 months left, you've got about
So it's about 7,000.
7,000. And then mayor's salary went up $5,000 this year annually. So you got 2,500 left of that. So you got 6,000. You got about $8,500 roughly.
So I find we had a study done of remuneration for council. We spent money on that study. We had a engagement of a committee, community committee, and we found that we were behind. But a motivating thing, something that resonates with me, was something, I believe you said this at that time, is that we wanted to have a stipend that would attract working people, younger people, those people who could not get time off of work without losing money, that they would have fair compensation for that. And that was, I think, a very valid thing, that we want all people to have the opportunity to take part in the governance role in the city. I find little things like this, we do a study, then we have something come along, we slip away, then we're maybe back into another study to catch up. Unless it's under a bigger framework of council saying, because of the COVID crisis, we are going to strive to have a 0% increase in our cost and benefits, or even less, I find this sort of not a meaningful gesture, and so I will be voting against this.
Thank you. Councillor Earl?
So I have some thoughts. I'll support this based on the exceptional nature of the circumstances, and because I think based on some discussion we had previously, we have the option to suspend the policy for the year. It's not my intention to discontinue the policy in perpetuity. I think, as Councillor Parslow and his worship have said, this particular compensation package was something that was recommended by a committee that was impaneled by council at the time. And I think we do have a responsibility to respect the input of those people who dedicated their time to doing it. So in that sense, I don't want to discontinue the policy. I do think, given that we are asking staff to do more with less, in some cases, as our CAO has pointed out back when he was a councillor, less with less sometimes at a certain point. I'm prepared to do this. I do have some concern. I know, your worship, proactively you are in the process or have dedicated your annual pay bump to charity. So I wouldn't, if this ends up failing, I wouldn't be opposed to doing that myself as a symbolic gesture. As Councillor Parslow said, this isn't likely to close the fiscal gap, but I wouldn't want you to take a double hit either, because
Oh, that happens annually.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
So that's out of some sense of I don't know if you feel like opining or chiming in to see where you stand, but if for whatever reason this Councillor Javetkov's motion doesn't pass, I'm happy to go about returning that pay bump to the community by another means. And I recognize Councillor Parslow's point. It's not just about our individual paychecks. It's about the fact that this was a policy recommended by a panel. We asked specifically to do it, and I am loath to go against that, but under these circumstances, I would be willing to suspend it for the remainder of the year.
So just for history, 2 years ago when the federal government changed the tax rules, 1/3 of council and municipal government's remuneration was tax-free, that council, we at that point appointed a committee to look at that remuneration because of the tax increases that everyone was going to be faced. And so in 2019 was the first year of that change to the tax regime for the federal government in terms of how the tax structure was impacting each of us at every level of municipal government. And the committee recommended a phased approach for the increases for 19, 20, and then CPI plus a 1% increase after that. So that was kind of I think the history of when we got into this. So this is always for people watching in the community and public saying, wait a minute, you guys get to decide your own increases. Well, it's more than that. It's about council directing and impacting how you remunerate people who come and serve the public, and people have different requirements of that. And I did, and I'll speak to it, I did, knowing kind of some stuff, I didn't donate it to charity. I donated it to the Dawson Creek Dog Park Society. We're not a charity. They're just a local society, and I felt I would give half of my increase this year to them and give the other half to the federal government, as I annually do. And that's how I dealt with it. But I certainly appreciate that, there's a message here, and I think that's what Councillor Javetkov had spoke to, is that, look, we're it's been a difficult year for everybody, and so, but I wanted to clarify that's why I did that. Councillor Javetkov?
Yeah, I can appreciate all of the work that's gone in to determine what our remuneration is going to be. But when that was done, we didn't have a pandemic. Now we have a pandemic. There's been a lot of people that are affected in the community. A lot of staff have been affected, and this is a gesture, I think, that we should be making. I think the public would like to see it, and I think it's just it's one of those donations that you feel that you have to make every once in a while. I think we all do it.
Well, and I did mine a month ago because I felt the same way then. So I completely in support of what this message is intended to do. So from that perspective, I completely appreciate it. Now, the one question to administration, we have a policy, so if we back this up to this increase in 2021, our policy says we have another 2% plus CPI, or CPI plus 1%. So does the motion now do in 2021, does it kick in then from that period with taking this decrease into account?
Your worship, I would suggest, I mean, council can make any determination they'd like. A suspension of the policy is just that. We're not rewriting the policy, so the policy come 2021 would become effective based on the 2021 recommendation, as I understand it.
And it outlines remuneration amounts for mayor and council on January 1st, 2021, which includes this year's increase. So I think we have to address that, or do we just leave that till 2021?
Again, your worship, that would be the call and wish of mayor and council as to how they would like to deal with that. As it would stand right now, it would be my understanding that come 2021, the increase as reflected in that policy would be implemented. So if council at that time wanted to address it again, they could look at either a suspension or not at that point.
Council, any further comments, questions? So with that, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Any further business, Councillor Javekov?
No.
Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Parslow?
I have some new business.
All right, I've just got Councillor Kemp and then I'll move to
sorry.
you. Yep. Councillor 3.2, Councillor Kemp, in regards to our City Hall flag protocol.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was just inquiring, I know we've gone over the City Hall flag protocol, but I was just inquiring if it's a possibility that the BC flag be included with the flags that are already outside City Hall. Is that a possibility?
So our flag policy, Brenda, does not include the BC flag at this point?
Yes, through your worship, that's correct. At this point, we just have the City of Dawson Creek flag, the Canada flag, and then the Treaty 8 flag. And if another flag is requested, then it would require another pole, and then it would be placed in accordance to the protocols, flag protocol.
Okay. And the third flagpole we installed for the Treaty 8 flag, that's where we fly the Philippine flag or the Métis flag or those other flags through the course of the year under our flag policy?
Yes, whenever their event takes place.
So, Councillor Kemp, are you suggesting we put another flagpole up, or just have the BC flag fly on one of those other poles?
I'm not sure which I'd like to see the BC flag up there, but I didn't know. I don't want to, of course, spend money for another flagpole, but I don't know if that's even a possibility.
No. Brenda?
Yeah, staff could look into options for that.
Okay.
We could, at the moment, put the BC flag in the place of the Treaty 8 flag, and then look for other alternatives for community groups, or I'm not sure.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Wilbur?
Just a thought that came to my mind. Do we not fly the BC flag at the Peace Park? What flags do we have at the Peace Park?
We have a UN flag. I'm going to have to go by memory here, but right now there is 3, I believe, flying at Peace Park. United Nations flag. They have again, I would have to.
Yeah, I can see them. I just can't think which ones are there. But I just remember that being part of the discussion, that there maybe not all be at City Hall, but we do have some at Peace Park as well.
Perhaps if we're going to have a motion, then we'll bring it back we're going to direct administration to bring back the flag policy with how we can facilitate and accommodate the BC flag in our flag policy. That work?
Yep, if that's a
Okay.
motion of council, or?
Yeah, I think
You make
that's...
that motion?
Yeah. So we'll bring it back. Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Earl. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. We'll bring it back under Mayor's business and... oh, no, I can deal with it now.
Yes.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Parslow?
I did have.
Oh, sorry. Amy, you had one more?
Sorry, I just wanted to bring up one more thing. I wanted to bring up the skate park. I don't know, over the last couple weeks, I have gone to the skate park and there's garbage thrown throughout there. My boyfriend went there. They cleaned up a garbage bag full of garbage and another of bottles, and so it was a mess. And then last week, the skate park has also had some graffiti on there, and some of it is of not of good nature. Now, I understand that the skate park, you know, there's lots of graffiti done on skate parks, but the ones that have showed up there are not of the best nature. And, you know, I take my sons there, they're 9 and 7, and they can read. And so it's something that was quite shock to me. Now, there is a group of volunteers that have gone on Facebook, and they're calling themselves Dawson Creek Beautification. Now they're going to change their name, but that's what they're calling themselves right now. And a bunch of volunteers want to get together and clean the skate park, get that graffiti off of there. And I'm just wondering what moving forward could be. Is there somebody watching that skate park to ensure that things are being taken care of? There is garbage receptacles on the outside, but the garbage doesn't seem to make its way to those. It stays within the park. And I'm just wondering what the protocol is there.
Blair?
Through your worship, there are a couple of things. I think overall, the park, and I've seen what Councillor you have referred to. I've also been there with my grandchildren. The graffiti is unfortunate. It's a select group of individuals that will do this, whether it's at our skate park or on bridges. Low mentality, I would suggest, for these individuals, but we have to be somewhat cautious in talking with the people at the skateboard park. If we are going to look at painting or doing graphic murals or something, you have to be cautious of the paint you use on the surface, just for the riders and the skateboarders and so on. The garbage, I know that when I've been there, it's been relatively good. I think that was a challenge when we end up with some of the people that I've just spoken about taking it into their hands to think it's theirs, when in fact this is a community skate park for everybody to attend. We do have cameras on the facility, unbeknownst to the people that are doing this, so we do have film and we will be addressing it. So stay tuned and expect a knock on your door, is what I would suggest to these people.
Councillor Kemp?
One thing I was just asking, like the beautification committee, the group of volunteers that want to clean it up, one question they asked me is if they have if it's possible that they could get water, be it from maybe the arenas or something that could help them in cleaning up. Is that a possibility?
They could certainly, we will work with them if they call, but it will be important. I know the city has been down there and already addressed the graffiti, taken a great deal of it off, as have some of the others. We have a great number of volunteers, parents that volunteer down there as well when they bring their children down. So very positive in that aspect. But if they want to contact City Hall, we can work with them. I want to make sure they are working with the proponents of the skate park as well to make sure it goes hand in hand with what we can do there.
Councillor Wilbur?
Yeah, I do think that group was down there Sunday with trucks with tanks of water and stuff, cleaning off graffiti. So to them, please contact our CAO so that we're aware of what you're doing. It's quite common, though, in the Lower Mainland that the base of the bowls are kept clear of paint, but the sides are painted. And having been a parent of some of the boys and worked with the other groups who are now parents and have their kids down there that built the skateboard park, ownership is a huge thing. And so when our young citizens at the time were, using the benches and the sidewalks and stuff in the community for their skateboards and their BMXs, and they built that park and they took ownership on it, and they went to the Rotary clubs and they come to City Council, it changed their perspective as young people, and they are very, it transformed them. They're viable people in our community today that are paying taxes, that have families, that are proud of that park, and they take their kids there. So I think there is a possibility to, whether it be with this group or to work with those young people that are spray painting, to take something that is not appropriate and turn it into something that they'll take ownership of and take pride of. And so I think that opportunity is there. That's how the skateboard park got built, and I think that's how we have to move forward. So, it's great that parents are volunteering their time and they're down there with their children, but there are children down there whose parents aren't available to watch them while they're down there, and so they get into mischief, and that's just reality. I don't think they're bad people. I don't think they're bad youth. I think they need an opportunity, and they need someone to say, you know what, you're not bad at that spray painting, but let's make it a little appropriate for the community and put them to work, because they will take ownership of it and they will watch themselves that other people aren't wrecking it. So I think there's a great opportunity here. So I would like to see what the group is going to do, and that they contact the CAO, and we can look at this moving forward and work as a community, because that's their space, and you know, they took ownership of it in the wrong way, and I think we can turn that around. But I do know from being there from the beginning, it was built by children who didn't have parents all the time that could be there to watch them, whether they were working or whatever life situation was. And those are great, outstanding citizens within this community today. So, and I think some of them are down there with their kids. So they will have some of those answers, and I will bet they're part of that group. That's my 5 cents
Further-
worth.
Thank you. Further comments, further questions? We have no direction here other than,
We're fine, Your Worship, if they call. We certainly have the contacts and the ability to work with the group. And I will just echo that many of the parents that Councillor Wilbur just spoke about are wonderful. They're down there doing a great deal of work, as well as our city staff, to make sure the facility remains usable, and I think it's an asset to the youth.
now we still have public health orders in terms of size, and so we agreed to keep it open, but they were going to have the parents there, and so is that still?
No, they looked after it until phase 2, I believe, and now the youth that have been down there, when I've been down watching, have been following the social distancing to the best of their ability, like everybody out there. I think on occasion, I would suggest there's probably nobody that's completely innocent of encroaching on the 6 feet at this point.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Parslow?
Oh, questions about this? No.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Councillor Kemp. Councillor Parslow, go ahead.
Thank you. So I have several items. One of them relates to something I learnt whilst taking part in the NDIT meeting, and that was, and I'm pleased for Tumbler Ridge. Tumbler Ridge announced that they received a grant of $500,000 towards the development of mountain bike trails. That's great. As we know, some of us who were on council a few years ago, we learnt that Hudson Hope received a grant of $1.1 million towards the solar array. That's great for them. What concerns me, I've been on council, I forget how many years, but I've never experienced the fact that we get a big grant. And I just want to know who's monitoring on staff the availability of grants, because we have some wonderful assets close to Dawson Creek and within Dawson Creek for the development of mountain bike trails. And how did Tumbler Ridge get this and we didn't? That's a big general question. It's more, you know, I want us to get some big grants.
Through Your Worship, I cannot tell you how Dawson Creek, it comes usually through council. Having sat previously in a different chair than the one I'm in today, I don't remember in the last year and a half council asking to submit an application or something being brought before us. Many of the grants that come through NDIT are brought forward from our NDIT representative. The provincial government on this one, under the Rural Dividend Fund, I think most council is aware of that. It spoke about it, the NCLGA or the UBCM when we attend. These were, excuse me, older intakes as I understand it, because the government did utilize that revenue for something else, or the funding, and now this apparently is from a 2019 intake is what I found out today. But we will have, and our staff monitor the grants that are available, and we will ensure, and as I think in the past, previous people sitting in this position have brought those forward. But how Tumbler Ridge was chosen, or Hudson's Hope, that I couldn't tell you.
I think the Hudson Hope one was a federal grant. Anyway, I just wanted us to get into this thing. So if I can move on.
Yep.
I'm not sure of how I became aware of this initially, but and I want to talk about permissive tax exemption, the scheme that has been adopted by the city of Fort St. John. Again, as a result of a discussion had on Friday, I understand that the scheme that Fort St. John has adopted uses revenue from that will flow when the turbines start turning in Site C to fund a foundation. And that foundation will administer those funds and maybe, as I understand it, pay a grant to an organization in lieu of them not having permissive tax exemption anymore. So I think the scheme is that the permissive tax exemption would cease, excepting those that are statutorily get it, such as churches. But the foundation would use that revenue from the Site C to support various organizations in a variety of ways, including covering their permissive tax exemption. Now, my understanding is that the city of Dawson Creek is a beneficiary of this agreement, and let's say in 2024, if things go to schedule, we could receive about $300,000. And I was just wondering when, if we could have staff review what has been set up in Fort St. John and to see if that is an option that we might want to consider. So this is just something that obviously we brought back under Mayor's business, but it's something that interests me. And I've just given you the thumbnails outline as I understand it. So that's one topic. The next topic, we had a rainfall event, and I hate to say this, characteristically, some people were affected in a very horrible way through the backup of our sanitary sewer system, through overload from the downspouts, the sump pumps, the runoff, etc. It upsets me that this seems to happen at every significant rainfall event, and this was a significant rainfall event. But what adds to my concern, and I'm sure shared by everyone at this gathering here, is that climate forecasting and some stuff given to us from the Fraser Basin Institute, I think it was, is that this area will experience more of these significant rainfall events. So I'm just hoping that when we get into our strategic planning, we will, this is a complex issue, by the way, there's no easy solutions, that we will put this need to the forefront in our strategic planning. So that's just I feel it's had to say that we're not blind to what's going on with people. It's horrific. I can't imagine anything nastier than the sewer backup, not once, but sometimes twice, sometimes more than that. So that, you have a request in the agenda from the Mile Zero part, so I leave it. And then the last thing relates to Councillor Javakov's motion, that I would like Council to consider under Mayor's business a zero or less decrease, possibly a decrease in the wage and benefit package of the city in its budget, that we give a direction in that regard. So that's all I have to say.
So, I think that's a item under our, would that be under closed? I'm looking to administration.
For the
Direction under,
wage,
yeah.
would be a negotiation issue, I would suggest. But, you know, we are hoping, I mean, he is, the counselor is talking about a zero mandate. How we get there would be the negotiating process, I think.
Is the total cost of in our budget of wages and benefits be no increase in that total cost? We know that certain sectors of our employees, such as firefighters and RCMP, those negotiations, wage such as are set outside our purview, right? I mean,
But I guess my concern here is this is a topic that would be under our closed, would it not?
Yeah, I would think if we are going to set a mandate, a wage mandate for the city, we are going to have to negotiate. That could be where I would suggest that mandate comes forward.
Right.
And again, the councillor would have to, I think he's talking about a broader budgetary
we're
discussion.
talking budget, yeah. Negotiations will happen regardless.
Brenda?
Go ahead, Brenda.
What we could do at this point is a motion to discuss this topic in the in-camera motion meeting today.
Okay.
And if anything is to be brought forward into the public meeting, it would be brought forward to the next meeting.
Okay.
But we'd need a motion.
So we need a motion to refer it to our in-camera. So moved by Councillor Parslow, second Councillor Javetkov. All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Anything further?
No, thank you.
Your Worship, just for clarity for Councillor Parslow, you talked about the Fort St. John permissive tax exemption bylaw. Would it be the intent we continue on with the permissive tax exemption bylaw this council has set moving forward at the present time, or because this one that you're referring to would be a 2024 in that range initiation with a foundation should council choose to go that way?
My understanding is that we set aside the very good proposal put forward by staff. We suspend this until 2021. I thought we did that at our last council meeting.
We're going to suspend the proposed increases, impacts for 2021 and begin the meetings with the public as soon as possible in 2021.
In 2021. I'm asking that we study, I thought the operative word was that we get a report from staff on whether the steam in Fort St. John was something that we should consider.
Okay.
So I didn't think it's something new, it's an interesting idea. Can we do it? Is it something we want to do? Just that we have a report, I guess, on this, and we may want to act on that report, we may not. That we get that before 2021.
We'll do our...
So then we'll need Brenda?
Yeah.
We'll need a motion to direct staff then to bring it back under Mayor's business.
Yes.
So Councillor Parslow move that we direct staff to bring back a report on the BC Hydro Fund that's going to start to generate revenue once the turbines start in, I believe it's 2024. It's $2.4 million a year is annually going to flow to the Peace River Regional District, and the allocation has already been agreed to at 13.2%. The City of Dawson Creek will receive, so it's about $320,000 annually for 70 years. And so we'll get a report from administration on that fund, as well as the Fort St. John permissive tax, or Fort St. John's foundation of what they're using for that funding. Because it isn't, I don't think it says yet in the foundation that they're going to allow people to get their revenue to, or the money from that foundation to pay their permissive tax. We just need their permissive, the foundation structure, because you can't, I don't think you can commit to somebody that's saying you're going to get the ability, the art gallery is going to get the ability to apply to the fund, for the foundation fund to pay their permissive tax. Flavie?
So, Your Worship, I don't have too much detail other than the communication you forward to us. I understand for the first year, all the portion of other agencies, those organizations will be required to pay. the work of how offsetting from the foundation, I am not aware right now.
So I think what you're looking for though is
How's it going?
how's that foundation going to work?
It was announced with the decision, the announcement was all tied in with permissive tax exemption. I think we need to understand what's going on.
Well, I just want to clarify what the motion is,
Yes,
what we
sorry.
direct staff to do. So,
I'd like a report on the permissive tax scheme involving the formation of a foundation in Fort St. John with and their funding revenue from the BC Hydro. How that's all going to help with payment.
I think they're two different things. I think the permissive tax bylaw they're passing, they can't tie that to the foundation at this point. So all they're saying is they're going to take that revenue from BC Hydro and form a foundation with it. That's the first piece of it. Their permissive tax exemption bylaw is completely separate.
It didn't come across in the discussion on
So we'll ask
Friday.
staff to bring back a report on.
All I'm asking for is information.
Yeah. So on I've got to get the clarification on the motion before I ask for a seconder. That's all I'm asking for at this point. So you want the BC Hydro agreement with Peace River Regional District and the foundation.
I'm aware of the BC Hydro agreement. I don't know if the rest of staff is, so it might be helpful for the information of the rest of staff. But what my real interest is how people, organizations, how the city of Fort St. John, right, is seemingly doing away with permissive tax exemption and replacing it with a scheme involving a community foundation funded through the BC Hydro revenue.
So let's ask them to get the information back on the foundation, and if there's a scheme in there for their permissive tax bylaw, that'll be the first step in it. Seconder, Councillor Earl, go ahead.
So I was just going to add a bit of context in my role as the liaison and as a board member for the Northeast Regional Community Foundation. This community foundation being set up in Fort St. John is part of the funding, or the initial seed funding, comes from the amount Fort St. John pulled out of the Northeast Regional Community Foundation. So it'll be set up like a community, like the community foundation here, and it's the Umbrella Corporation Community Foundations of Canada. So with respect to, I don't want to say they could conceivably simply be downloading the cost of this onto a community foundation, but I'm not sure that they have the capacity to make the commitment that this community foundation, which is going to be run by a board of directors, will in perpetuity be directing those funds toward offsetting property taxes. That might be a component of it, but right now the foundation already exists. It's just a matter of how they set it up.
So it was my understanding Fort St. John weren't part of the Northeast Foundation. I thought it was Dawson Creek, Taylor, Hudson Hope.
They originally were, and they pulled their money out and decided to go it alone.
Okay. All right, so we've got staff will...
We've got that, Your Worship.
Yeah. Bring the information back so council can have the information as it's being developed. Councillor Javetkov?
Just a question on that money. Is there a criteria for that money? Do we have to use it for certain things, or?
No. So Blair and I have had some conversation about it last week. It starts as soon as the turbines come on. It's a 70-year agreement. They've allocated what each community will receive as a result of it. It's 2.4 million indexed. So over 70 years, so we will get $300 and some thousand starting when it turns on for 70 years, and we can allocate what that money is for.
Okay.
Thank you. Brenda?
Sorry, Dale, for that.
No, it's good. It's good. I want to make sure they're clear in terms of what we're getting at. Brenda?
Yeah, through your worship, since this motion was not put on the agenda, it'll have to be.
It'll have to be brought back under mayor's business. Yeah. All in favor? Opposed?
Going to mayor's business.
It's coming to mayor's business. Okay. You're in favor of it going to mayor's business. Not in favor of it, you're in favor of it coming to mayor's business.
Exactly.
Thank you.
And I only learnt about this in a conversation Friday. I did read about it, but I learned more and asked some questions about it on Friday.
Thank you.
That's why I didn't get it on the agenda.
Any further councillor business? Councillor Wilbur?
Two things. One, the Board of Directors from the Southeast Health Services Society will be working with staff for an invitation to do a tour of Mayor and Council of the facility and give some updates while we're touring. And two, I know that we have some young employees through Aubert that are working with DC Recycling to look at checking our bins on recycling days. And so I would ask that under Mayor's business, we could discuss a request of the city donating 5 high-vis vests to those youth.
Thank you. So a motion that we, city support the supply of the vests to the youth for the recycling audit.
Right, yeah.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Kemp, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried? Thank you. Thank you, Councillor. Anything further?
That's it for me.
Thank you. Any other councillor business? Thank you. So minutes, item 4.1, we have minutes of a regular meeting of council of June 8th for adoption.
So moved.
Councillor Wilbur, Councillor Kemp, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Any business arising from the minutes? Correspondence. We have a letter from Dale Campbell, president of the president of the South Peace Mile Zero Park Society. Sorry. Councillor Parslow.
I would move that we accept the invitation.
Thank you. Second. Councillor Wilbur. Discussion.
I
Go ahead.
suggested this to the executive in light of the Sudeten Hall discussion, the fact that the new members of council who maybe do not know the history, like Paul Javaktov does, about the Mile Zero Park Society. And to me, it just illustrates some of the very best features of this community, how individuals, businesses, service clubs are all pulling together, donation, time, finding money to have a part that I see just from the village side and the RV side getting stronger and stronger. So I think it's education and awareness is the goal.
Thank you. Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 6.2, we have a letter from Len Brooks, resident of Dawson Creek, in regards to the request to build a new fence located on city property. Perhaps we can have a motion to receive for discussion so we can allow administration. Councillor Kemp, Councillor Wilbur, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Blair?
Your Worship, this became evident to us last week. I had a call from Mr. Brooks. He was replacing his fence, as was stated in his letter, of 18 years. He had a new contractor come out, remove the old one, put in a new one, at which point there was an electrical line that was engaged. They had called BC1, and as a result, the city was informed. Any call to BC1, we were let know. At that point, we went up and had a look. I let Mr. Brooks know that his fence that he was putting in was on city property, although the other one that was being replaced had sat there for 18 years. So as a result, we see he has been asked to stop until he has had either the approval or denial of city council to put the fence back in its location or to move it. And that's where we're at on this one, Your Worship.
Okay.
It's an encroachment on city property.
Thank you. Councillor Parslow?
We have on our agenda an item that relates to this, about taking a proactive stance on these matters. So I would suggest that we defer any decision about this until we've dealt with the other item on the agenda, which deals with encroachments and being proactive.
You could defer this decision until past that discussion, certainly.
Yeah. Councillor Earl?
I tend to agree with Councillor Parslow on this. I think there's a much larger discussion which has to take place as opposed to us doing this trying to do it on a one-off basis, both with respect to the work we've currently done in Chamberlain, and the encroachments there and some other stuff we have to figure out. I think trying to do this as a one-off, and certainly given what we've done in Chamberlain, it would be very difficult to simply allow the to give this particular resident carte blanche. As much as I sympathize with him, having a fence there for 18 years, there's a bigger discussion and some policy issues we have to settle on, I think, before we can.
So motion to defer until after we've dealt with Councillor Wilbur, Councillor Kemp. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 6.3, we have a letter from Reg Norman Trucking in regards to a proposal he's made in regards to some purchase of some topsoil. Councillor Parslow?
Move that we see for discussion.
Thank you. Second? Councillor Kemp? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Go ahead.
My question concern is, should we not make this an open to other companies? I mean, as much as I have affinity for Reg Norman Trucking and stuff, I'm just wondering if we're willing to do this, and it seems a very, why wouldn't we do it, but should we let this be known to other people that we're interested in having this soil paid for?
Your worship, there are two ways to do it. One is, as Councillor Parslow has said, if we are willing to dispose of this topsoil, then we could put it out for a request of interest or whatever determination we put forward. The other is, if council determines that they would like to and go with the letter before council today, they can notify the public that they plan on disposing it through this method that an individual has requested. As I understand it, I'll confirm that with Brenda, but there are two ways, and it will be council's decision as to which method they would like to pursue on this.
Councillor?
I would like to go with method number 2. I propose that motion, that we sell the soil through the method number 2 as outlined by staff.
Which would be, we would accept the request from Reg Norman Trucking, that request would then be advertised in the newspaper, Brenda, that the city is planning on disposing of this. And again, I'll look for clarity from yourself.
Yeah, within that ad in the paper, we would have to include the cost that we would be disposing it of. All the details we would have to include in that. And if there was any opposition to that from the community, they would have a deadline to respond to council with that. The alternative would be to put it out for RFQ, right?
Yeah.
Where we'd get multiple bids. Or not. We could only get the one bid as well with that.
So I have a motion that we're moving to the second option where we agree on a price and advertise that for a certain period of time. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Wilbur. Discussion, Councillor Parslow, or Councillor Javetko, sorry.
Oh,
So, this doesn't have any money attached to it. Like, what are we doing? Are we giving it away? Are we $1 a meter or $1,000 a meter?
We would have...
How many meters are there and what do we expect? You know, I don't like this way of doing it. I would prefer, if we are interested in getting rid of this topsoil, to go out for proposals and get bids on it.
Okay. Yeah, the reason I asked Mr. Norman to send a second letter, he did have a number in there. So it's not fair to him if council puts it out there to an RFP, then he's already put his price in. So that's an unfair competitive advantage to other folks. That's why I asked him to change the letter. And then I wanted council to be able to make the decision on exactly what you're doing today. So, Councillor Wilmer?
I believe we just heard through staff that through that advertising, we have to have the price, all of that information in the advertisement, and then anyone else in the community could write and say, well, hey, I'm interested, and then that changes the process moving forward. But I believe staff just said we have to put all that out there openly, if I'm correct.
Councillor Javetko?
We do not know the value of that topsoil until we get bids. To just accept somebody's word on, you know, whether it's worth $1 a meter or whatever.
Sure.
We don't know the actual value. I guess the other question I had is, does administration agree that we want to get rid of it?
Blair?
Through your worship, yes, I have had some discussions. We have no use for that. at this point. There would have to be some work done on this, regardless of how we handle the tendering of this, to confirm that, does it have to be screened? Is it got clay mixed in with it? I mean, that would be a discussion with whether it be Mr. Norman or anybody else that would be interested. So there would be a cost. The one thing that is interesting is there's a request that it would be a single individual versus opening up for the fear of weed control and so on. I think everybody's aware of that when it comes to topsoil, but we're happy to deal with it however council would wish.
Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Worship. So we do have a prior letter that has a number attached to it without giving away, information which could subsequently hamper Mr. Norman's ability to make a competitive bid or hamstring him in that respect. Is it based on the opinion of staff, is it conducive to market rates? Is it reasonable? I mean, wholesale rates, without knowing that, are we in a good ballpark, or can we at least have a look at it under close?
I think we could do that, Your Worship. I'm very hesitant. I would suggest it's more than $1 and less than $1,000. Councillor Javatkoff stated.
Clear as mud. Thank you.
And the volumes, there's been no analysis on the volumes. And the other thing is, so if you put 2 weeks to 4 weeks of time into this, where we do the staff analysis, we do the tender, we do the award, you're into July, August, where you probably wouldn't be the market in it. So
that was
go ahead.
The second part of my question is, if we're putting this out to RFQ, then we're going to conceivably have to do some work to figure out ourselves how much is there, whether it's of a certain status, whereas from what I understand in this letter, Mr. Norman is willing to incur those costs and that work on his own to ascertain it.
I would think, Your Worship, however we land on this, it would be not the city's responsibility, but the individuals who, we haven't had people banging our door down to take this topsoil. It's been there for quite some time. So this is a letter that came before us from an individual business seeking an expression of interest in purchasing it. That's why it's here before you. But again, whichever decision council wishes to proceed with, we will make happen. We will not incur significant cost to accomplish the sale of this. And I see Kevin is here, unless you have anything to add, Kev?
Councillor Javatkoff?
So I'm just wondering about the, how it would work if we went with this motion. It's advertised with a price, and somebody else comes and says, well, I'm interested in it. Now I know what the price is. I'm going to offer 5 cents more. So is it theirs, or what happens?
No.
Like, what's the process?
Thank you. Brenda or Blair?
Yeah,
Go
through your
ahead.
worship. If another business could show that they could provide the service for a better deal for the city, then they would make that proposal to the city. It would come back to council, and you would reconsider at that point, which does tend to lean not to be in favor of the proposal here.
The original
It would be better situation for Mr. Norman for just an RFQ.
RFQ.
Yeah.
Councillor Parslow?
Well, it grieves me to say that Councillor Javatkoff has a point here about the price. Only kidding, Paul. I was just wondering, I'm thinking I will have to vote against the motion that I made, given that, because it is a real impediment. I don't want to set up a scheme whereby a person who's come forward very proactively is then put at a competitive disadvantage. So I think I think either, if my seconder would agree, I would withdraw the motion if that's permissible with the seconder, and or probably not, we should just defeat it.
First point, in regards to the notice of intent, it's meant basically for when we think there's only one provider in the community, and it's just a way to fast track things. So that's the basis for the notice of intent.
Okay.
But in regards to this motion, once moved and seconded, it belongs to the floor.
It's
so-
on the floor. So, Councillor Javatkoff?
Yeah, I think there are more than one provider here.
I agree.
In fact, there could be 3.
Yeah. I think we've had sufficient discussion. I think I get a sense of the room, and so we'll call a question on the motion. All those in favor? Opposed? It's defeated, and the new motion being?
Who knows?
Direct the staff to prepare an RFQ, request for RFP, or request for pricing on the sale of the topsoil, and let the market determine. Councillor Javetkov move?
Yeah.
Second. Councillor Earl, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 7.1, we have the report 2108 from our corporate officer regarding our 2019 annual report. Councillor Wilbert.
That report number 20-108 from the corporate officer, RE, the 2019 annual report be received. Further, that the Dawson Creek annual report for 2019 be approved as presented.
Thank you. Second, Councillor Kemp, discussion. Brenda, we received the one comment from Margaret Sutton, and that gets included in the report or in the letter?
It's not included in the report.
Just part of information for
Yes.
council.
Just for council to consider before you formally approve the report.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 7.2, we have report number 20-124 from the corporate officer regarding the Chamberlain Park request that we received from Mr. Mangeli. Councillor Parslow.
The report number 2124 from the corporate officer regarding the Chamberlain Park price freeze request be received. Further, that Mr. and Mrs. Mangali be offered the option of deferring the completion date until 2021 or 2022, dependent upon the non-refundable shared cost of $4,300 being included with the offer to purchase. Further, the city that the offer to purchase be received by administration prior to the end of June 2020.
Thank you. Second. Councillor Wilbert, discussion?
I like the creative
Councillor.
solution to the problem here, written by staff.
Further discussion, comments? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. 7.3, we have report 20-111 from the General Manager of Development Service regarding a request for quotation. Councillor Javetkov.
I move that report number 20-111 from the General Manager of Development Services, request for quotations 2020-24, four-wheel drive crew cab short box trucks to be received. Further, the council award RFQ 2020-24, four-wheel drive crew cab short box trucks to Bannister Ford for a total of $74,258 plus applicable taxes.
Thank you. Second. Councillor Earl, discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 7.4, we have report number 20-112 from the General Manager of Development Services regarding a request for quotations on one-ton four-wheel drive crew cabs. Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Worship. I move the recommendation that report number 20-112 from the General Manager of Development Services regarding request for quotations 2020-25 one-ton four-wheel drive crew cab short box truck be received. Further, that council award RFQ 2020-25 one-ton four-wheel drive crew cab short box truck to Bannister Ford for a total of $43,467 plus applicable taxes.
Thank you. Second. Councillor Wilbur, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 7.5, we have report number 2113 from the General Manager of Development Services regarding a request for quotations for a mini hole. Councillor Partle.
I move the report number 20-113 from the General Manager of Development Services request quotations 2020-26 one mini hoe to be received. Further, council award RFQ 2020-26 one mini hoe to Douglas Lake Equipment Limited for a total of $88,550 plus applicable taxes.
Thank you. Second. Councillor Javetkov, discussion?
The thing that caught my attention is use in the cemetery on my birthday. And I get some benefit from this.
There may be. Even maybe some other options.
Now that you mention it.
You opened the door. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 7.6, we have report 20114 from the General Manager of Development Services regarding request for quotations for an asphalt hotbox trailer. Councillor Wilbur.
Shall remove that report number 20-114 from the General Manager of Development Services regarding the request for quotations of the 2020-27 asphalt hotbox trailer be received. Further, that council award the RFQ 2020-27 asphalt hotbox trailer to PSE Equipment Limited for a total of $41,059 plus applicable taxes.
Thank you. Second, Councillor Earl. Discussion. Councillor Parslow.
I've never heard of PSE Equipment Limited. Should I have done? Is it a local dealer? Where are they from?
I'm not
certain.
right off the top of my head, I'm not
Okay.
sure.
Pretty specialized piece of equipment.
Yeah, that's true. I was just thinking that when he said that. That's right. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments, questions? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 7.7, we have report number 2115 from the General Manager of Development Services regarding request for quotations for a municipal tractor. Councillor Kemp.
I'll move the recommendation that report number 20-115 from the General Manager of Development Services regarding request for quotations 2020-28 municipal tractor be received. Further, the council award the RFQ 2020-28 municipal tractor to Kendrick Equipment for a cost of $118,800 plus applicable taxes.
Thank you. Second, Councillor Earl. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. 7.8, we have report number 20116 from the General Manager of Development Services regarding the disposal of a 2007 John Deere wheel loader. Councillor Javetkov.
Move the report number 20-116 from the General Manager of Development Services re disposal of 2007 John Deere 5441 wheel loader be received. Further, that council directs staff to advertise the loader for sale on governmentdeals.ca for a minimum price of $23,000. Further, should the city not receive any bids over the minimum price, the wheel loader will be sold to Brent Tractor for $23,000.
Thank you. Second, Councillor Wilbur. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. So we'll take a 7-minute break and recess. Call ourselves back to order and are back into our agenda. Report 7.9, report number 2109 from the Safety Coordinator regarding a health and safety policy.
Sure.
Councillor Wilbur.
I will move that report number 20-109 from the Safety Coordinator regarding health and safety policy be received. Further, that the health and safety policy attached to this report be approved to replace the current safety policy pending the required 30-day review period.
Thank you. Second. Councillor Earl. Discussion. Councillor Wilbur.
I just wanted to say it's nice to see the updates and the work put in to bring us up to speed. So good work.
Thank you. Any other comments, Council? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. 7:10, we have report number 20110 from the Facilities Manager regarding a request for quotations for the Kembork Aquatic Center sound system replacement. Councillor Parslow.
Report 20-110 from the Parks and Facilities Manager, we request for quotations 2020-20. ABAC sound system replacement we received. Further, the council award RFQ 2020-20 ABAC sound system replacement to Evolution AV for $23,655.13 including GST.
Thank you. Second. Councillor Javetkov. Discussion. Comments. Councillor Wilbur.
Just for you to staff, I noticed that Evolution AV isn't giving any trade-in options, so what will be done with the existing equipment?
Thank you. Through your worship, I suspect that will go to an auction.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Further comments? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. 711, report number 20106 from the General Manager of Community Services regarding maintenance agreements for the corner lots of 104th Avenue and 10th Street. Councillor Javetkov?
Move that report number 20-106 from the General Manager of Community Services, re-maintenance agreement, corner lots at 1012 and 104th Avenue and 10321, 10325 10th Street be received. Further, that council declines the opportunity to renew the maintenance agreement with Mr. Frank Ripley.
Thank you. Second? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Earl, discussion. Councillor Wilbur?
I think it's a typo under summary and background. Is it supposed to be $400 or $400,000?
Oh, yes, I noticed that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's supposed to be 400,000.
Through your worship, $400,000.
Okay.
Sorry.
Nope, that's okay. For clarity, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Parkville?
Do you have an estimate of the cost savings of this?
It is in the range of $3,000, I believe, Ross.
Thank you again. Through your worship, our original costs were estimated about $3,000 per year. We have subsequently reduced our schedule at the park, and as recently as this year, we've actually eliminated the bedding plant. So with inflation, what have you, it may be somewhat less than $3,000, but that was the original estimate.
Thank you. Further comment? Blair?
Just for clarity, Mr. Ripley had put this forward some time ago when he took ownership, I believe, of the lot. I believe previously it was the Bank of Nova Scotia many years ago. The city requested use of this, which Mr. Ripley was kind enough to say if you maintain it, you can use it. I think in today's environment with the financial challenges and decisions the city is being incurred to make, that this would be a prudent decision on this lot at this time. We do hold a single downtown green space over by Lothar Treeble's Jewelers, or the old Lothar Treeble Jewelers, which was a city lot, developed into a bit of a rest area with a bench and so on. But as nice as this is to have, it's one of those things, can we afford to continue doing what we're doing?
Thank you. Councillor Javetkov?
I don't know for sure, but I imagine because we're involved in maintenance that we carry some liability there as well.
Thank you. Any further comments? Go ahead, Blair.
Could I just suggest, Your Worship, should this pass, that we also extend a letter of thanks to Mr. Ripley for the years that we've engaged with him on the use of this property? I would certainly look after that.
Sure. Good. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Bylaws, we have report number 20092 from the corporate officer regarding our heritage dedication bylaw 4449. Councillor Parslow, moved. Second. Councillor Wilbur, discussion. Councillor Earl.
Just following up from the last time this subject was before us, I'd asked staff or Councillor Parslow at the time if they'd had an opportunity to touch base with the art gallery and make sure they're up to speed on this happening, simply because they will have had some staff turnover since it was initially posed to them. I just want to make sure that conversation happened and they're on board.
Councillor Parslow.
I spoke to Marcia immediately after the last meeting. She was aware of previous discussions, actually. But I don't know how she was made aware, but yeah, she's fine.
Okay,
good. Thank you. Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. 8.2, we have report number 20107 from the Deputy Corporate Officer regarding our Council Procedure Amendment bylaw for consideration of first three readings. Councillor Kemp?
I'll move the recommendation that report number 20-107 from the Deputy Corporate Officer regarding Council Procedure Amendment Bylaw be received. Further, the Council Procedure Amendment Bylaw number 4451 2020 be given first 3 readings.
Thank you. Second? Councillor Wilbur, discussion? Just an amendment to our manner in which we deal with closed items, Brenda, from...
Yeah, and this also adds the update from the CAO
Yeah,
to the agenda.
good. Councillor Earl?
Just out of curiosity, is this update going to be written form or oral?
Well, usually the updates. It will depend on the day, apparently.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. The question now to our corporate officer and our committee of the whole reports as we get close to them after these aspects. And we have the item to be brought forward by Mr. Brooks. Can we do that after we do committee of the whole?
Yeah, through your worship, you can enter back into the regular meeting of
we'll-
the committee of the whole if that's your
We
preference.
have, so we will have to go back into our open meeting to deal with that item because you can't deal with it in the committee of the whole.
Right.
Okay. Good. Thank you. Mayor's business. So I attended 2 weeks ago the electronic Zoom meeting of the Dawson Creek Chamber of Commerce Annual General Meeting, and they were able to achieve quorum through that format, which was good. The new directors were appointed and elected, and healthy financial position so far for the chamber, and obviously lots of activity both through the chamber and their executive director. And so congratulations to the chamber on another very successful year and numerous initiatives that through the chamber Kathleen was involved in, and great job by them. We handled in June, I think June 13th is the Philippine Independence Day, 122 years, and again this year without having the ability to host the group as we normally do, we videotaped it and sent the video along to them for their use and flew the flag as appropriate. I'm chairing the Peace Wilson Advisory Committee meetings now for the last couple of years. Peace Wilson Advisory Committee set up by BC Hydro for those communities impacted by the Wilson Reservoir years and years ago, and so Fort St. John, Taylor, Hudson Hope, Dawson was included in it, and Seke, Dene, and the Quadachi on the west side of the reservoir, along with Hudson Hope and Mackenzie. And now we've also added Karen Goodings in the Peace River Regional District. It's really a good informational meeting on behalf of Hydro. They update us on initiatives around the reservoir and activities of that they're undertaking, as well as communities get an opportunity to give some input. The chair of the board of Hydro, Ken Anderson, is there, as well as Chris O'Reilly, the president and CEO. And so we did by Zoom last week, and I think the interesting one for me is always right now is pertinent has been over the last 2 years is that Wilson Reservoir levels, and so they operate within that 2150 to 2204 I think as their elevation levels they can operate that reservoir in, and can't bring it below 2150 because it has, that's the water controller gives them the license to operate it at that level, and they can't go below that, and it has significant impacts to the District of Mackenzie when they go below that, because then it really impacts Mackenzie's industry, both the pulp mill and the sawmills, as well as recreation and all those other things. But last year in June, July, the rains didn't impact reservoir that much. August it took off, and this year they're in really good shape again. Because of the river diversion now at Site C is beginning, it will have some impacts on how they draft the reservoir as well. But overall, it was really interesting again and very well attended, and appreciate the opportunity to be involved on behalf of the City of Dawson Creek. The Northern Chambers for Northern BC, chaired by Todd out of Prince George, is chairing this meeting, and we do it, I think it's weekly, but almost now moving bi-weekly with all the chambers and some of the elected officials, talking about what the initiatives that the chambers are involved in, and they bring Val Litwin in from the BC Chamber of Commerce, and he gives an update, as well as a number of the local MLAs. And it really is about how and what they're doing, everyone, as a collaborative effort to impact positively the small business and the business communities across the north. And I've been found it very interesting to sit in and listen to the various issues that are being faced by the chambers and some of the initiatives they're taking on to try to help their communities, as well as working on provincial stuff. And they've just made a recommendation because of the Premier's Economic Recovery Committee that he's formed with all of his deputies, and Val Litwin from the BC Chambers on it, and Greg Davignon from the BC Business Council, and I think, not sure if industry are in there or not, Kofi maybe, but anyway, so they made the recommendation because there was nobody from the north on the committee, that they're going to make the recommendation that they get Joel McKay, the CEO of NDIT, on the board, appointed to that committee as well, the Premier's working group. So we'll see how that unfolds. I had a call with Sarah Dickinson, the Vice President of BC Oil and Gas Commission, last week in regards to moving forward with the dormant well work, and that's that 120 million, I think, that the federal government has flowed through to BC and Alberta. BC got 120, I think. Alberta, no, we got, I can't remember now the numbers because there's two different aspects to it. Anyway, they're going forward with doing a bunch of work on the dormant well recovery program to remove the infrastructure from some of the dormant wells. It's different than the abandoned or orphan wells, which are wells that are have been abandoned by companies who have gone out of business or whatever. So this dormant wells work is going forward, and it really is a real positive opportunity for the region, as well as landowners, as well as in some of the service sector, because it's creating some economic opportunities that didn't exist prior to the service companies, and hopefully our companies like PC Oilfield and Smith Connolly Smith and those type of companies can get in on some of this work. We held the red carpet event for the grads last week, and the parents took that on and just did an amazing job of organizing an event for the red carpet at Kin Park on the walking trail, starting at around 13th Street by the college or by the hospital. And they had it structured so every 10 to 15 minutes there would be 10 grads that would walk through, and they had it cordoned off areas for the parents or family members in the areas, the 4 areas, to make sure they ensured social distancing and crowd sizing, and they had tickets assigned to them, and so then the grads would walk through, and then 15 minutes they would be given to clear out, and the next group and wave would come in, and it was, you know, it took them a full afternoon of being able to accomplish it, but the parents wanted to have that red carpet, and so our hats go off to them for doing that work and organizing it, and they did a great job, and so happy for the grads to be able to have that opportunity at that event. So appreciate Blair working with them and helping them get that executed on for a special time for those kids in their lifetime of graduating and from high school, and it's a memorable lifetime event. I attended a meeting with the South Peace Division of Family Practice, and so the South Peace Division is headed by Dr. Human in Dawson, and it involves Chetwynd and Tumbler Ridge, and the division formed themselves in a formal structure where they work to build strong family practice within the region, and so we're going to keep working away with them and support them and ensure that we help find ways for them to be successful and continue on with strong service in the region. And one of the things, Chetwynd's Dr. Bannister, I think, is the doctor there, and I'm not sure if he's alone or if there's one more there, but they're worried about, you know, recruitment for physicians there, and so I think that's where we can benefit from a strong service in the region with strong family practice. We had a number of delegation requests, and so I'll move. The first one was PBR McDonald's A&W had a request for a variation to the sign bylaw for McDonald's and A&W. Blair, do you want to speak to it in terms of?
Well, Your Worship, just an update. Council altered the policy not that long ago, I believe 2019, Brenda, if I'm correct. So the intent was once you put up a digital sign, that the portable signs would then be removed. That was a decision made by this body of council. There has now been a request saying we would like to keep the digital signs as well as the portable signs. I think the intent, and I won't speak for councillors, but was to move those signs once the new permanent signs have been put in place. We certainly remember the parts of the discussion going back, not just this previous policy discussion, but years before that as well. So now we have people that have come and said they would like to have both, and that will be a decision of council. Whether they would like to keep the portable signs throughout the community as well as the marquee, I'll call them marquee signs, the digital signs, or not.
Thank you. Councillor Wilbur?
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship, to staff, the reason I asked the delegations when they had those portable signs there, because I'm relating it similar to now us moving with parking, rooming houses and stuff. Anyone that fell before that bylaw got put in place, my understanding is they're grandfathered. So I know for a fact that McDonald's and A&W and the one that's coming next had those signs there prior to the bylaw being altered and put in place. So my question to you, staff, is are they not grandfathered because they were already exactly where they're at now before we changed the sign bylaw?
I believe I will give my shot at this answer and then look to Kevin, but I don't believe they are grandfathered. As a result of the installation of the digital signs, it became out of compliance with the bylaw at that point. Kevin, anything to add?
Yeah, so through your worship, I know in planning law, you're correct, there's some, in the signs I'd have to double check. And just additional information for council is that we didn't proactively go and seek these out. These were complaints received, and so we responded to the complaint. So that's how we acted on it originally.
Councillor Javetkov?
So, what is the problem, like, whether we voted against them or not? What's the problem with having both? Was there something identified as an issue? Was it a space issue or?
Proliferation of signs, if you didn't put some, I'm assuming, and that's my kind of recollection of it, but to administration.
I believe you're correct, Your Worship. It was the proliferation of signs on the boulevards and trying to get a handle on that and on different business corners and so on. Again, the wish of council we will make happen. It's, you know, it was a decision of this body that put this in place, and if there's a wish to alter that, we will so do it.
Councillor Parslow?
No, the co-op have a different challenge with all the tenants, right? Or do they? I mean, you're dealing with A&W and McDonald now, but I was wondering, do we see a difference emerging where you have multiple businesses as opposed to just a single business? I don't know. I do believe signs are unsightly. Okay? I do not like to see some proliferation of signs. There has to be some, but I'd rather wish to keep signs minimum. I think they're aesthetically not pleasing.
Councillor Javetkov? No, sorry, I got Councillor Wilbur, then Councillor Javetkov.
Whatever, Parcel. No, just.
Oh, I said there's a need for some signs.
There is. I think, so within that boulevard area too, if my memory serves me correctly, whether it was the city or the Encan Event Center, they have one there where they were advertising events as well. They had one near the traffic circle. So then I would think if it's good for us, it's good for the businesses. Both of the signs at McDonald's and A&W are on their property. They don't impede vision of coming in or out. And they use them for their one-off sales if you're paying attention to what they're advertising on their signs versus more of a corporate marketing campaign on their digital signs. So there's a difference. So I have no problem with them being there. Further, there are two small business owners that's their livelihood. And so they're struggling too. And so they're working with these companies in their livelihood. So I have no problem with it. I'm not sure what the complaint was. I know we've got them before where other people can't third-party advertise with portable signs directing people off main thoroughways within the community. But I will say, if those are an issue, then obviously the ones that have been used for advertising for the event center and the city are also along that same thoroughway. And I also believe we have one at Kin Park advertising for Parks and Rec. So if it's good for us, I think it's good for our local business.
Your Worship, just for clarity, there is no digital sign in Kin Park. So there is a difference. I want to make sure the context of this discussion is maintained. So whatever direction, as I said, council determines, we will adhere to, but do be prepared. The issue is the request that came to council or to the city administration was that I am not allowed to have it. I have, for example, a sign that I'm adhering to the bylaw. I have people that aren't adhering to the bylaw. We have an obligation. We have taken the process in the city to respond to those, and that's how this came about. But I will state this, be prepared if council opts to change the policy they've adopted, that you would have to honor that for every person and every business that would like to put one up, if that's what you'd like to, just so that you have to look at the extremes, because we can't handpick, so, under a policy.
Councillor Javetkov and Councillor Wilmer.
Yeah, I guess I view these signs as information, and I don't have a problem with them. I mean, I guess there is a point where it becomes almost clutter, but, and I suppose if every business in town had one in front of their business, that would be a problem. But, I mean, are these signs limited to being on private property, or do they put them out on, I know the one that was at the hotel on our corner there, sometimes it encroaches out so far that you can't, there's no visibility to see oncoming traffic. Well, I deal with that. I go in and tell them, and they move it back. But, and if they don't, then the bylaw officer makes them move it back. But, it seems to me that there's some control there, and I think the signs are valuable to the public as well as the business, because there's information on them.
Thank you. Councillor Wilbur, you had one more?
I was just going to say, I'm just going to go back to when those signs were placed, and it was before we changed that bylaw, and I have no problem saying to the public, those signs were in place, have stayed in place, have been permitted the whole time before we changed the bylaw. And so if we're going to do that with other pieces as we change bylaws, then I think this fits.
Thank you. It's a motion, I think. Councillor Earl?
So, I mean, to the best of my knowledge, there's no infrastructure fastening those signs to the ground, permanent infrastructure. Those are portable signs.
Yes.
Yes.
I do think Co-op Mall is kind of a different beast than, say, although, I mean, somebody who sell advertising, I think Councilor Parslo's point, at a certain point it becomes overwhelming and unsightly, but there is value in giving businesses those options, and certainly at a time like this, I don't want to needlessly hamstring our hospitality industry especially. I do think, regardless of where we land on this, there is a difference between a mall and how they advertise versus a one-off business on their own property and how they advertise, and the notion that a single business is going to get two signs or one sign, and a property with 11 businesses is going to have to make do with the same resources does not strike me as realistic from a business owner's perspective. So I would, irrespective of where we land on this, I do think it's worth re-examining the policy to make a distinction between properties that have multiple businesses operating out of it and single business properties.
So a motion? Looking for a motion. Councillor Javetkov?
I'll move that we approve the request.
For a variance. Now, I just, if I can, I just want to ask, just clarify, because the delegation was for McDonald's, but it's also speaking on behalf of A&W, and is that permitted? Kevin?
So just, through your worship, just to know, this is a bylaw, so we can't just, the bylaw
So
in order to allow.
sorry?
We would have to make a bylaw amendment to allow the request. We can't, council cannot just vary by resolution.
So we have to move that we bring back an amendment to the bylaw.
Yes.
Okay, Councillor Javetkov's making that motion.
Yes.
Second, Councillor Wilbur. Any further discussion, Councillor Parslow?
Well, yes, what is the amendment going to say? Is it going to say that a business can have a digital sign and one mobile sign? Is that what you're anticipating? Because what you do for one, you must be prepared to do for all.
Well, when you amend the bylaw, you're amending it for everyone.
For everybody, yes. So is that what it's going to be, one and one? Is that what you had in mind,
Yeah.
Paul?
Yeah.
So what about the co-op? I would argue maybe they should have 11.
Well, the co-op is a different
It's a different section of the bylaw.
deal, and
Yeah.
I think administration needs to come up with some solution. And there's 11 businesses in there, so.
Yeah, right.
Kevin?
So through your worship, just currently, the current bylaw states that you're only allowed to have one portable sign per parcel. And it also states that you're not allowed to have one if you have a digital sign. So obviously what I'm hearing from council is we need to bring something back that would, basically get rid of the clause that says it's not permitted with a digital display, so that means you would be permitted to have one. And then I guess I'd be seeking some direction on whether you want more than one per property.
Councillor Parslow?
Well, I would suggest that if we're going to vary one and one with a single business, where there's multiple businesses in the same parcel, that we have multiple, a mobile to accommodate the number of businesses at that site. I mean, I'm just trying to see what is the logic to me. Now, whether I like that is another question. But I listened carefully to the co-op. It was well written in his thing as well. Gee, you've got 11 tenants. Are we going to allow 11?
Brenda?
Just to, I did recall him saying that one digital sign and one portable sign would be sufficient for the co-op. Yeah.
Councillor Wilbur?
I just want to say it was a different topic, so I was just, it's a separate issue.
If we amend the bylaw, or if we direct staff to amend the bylaw, we'll be amending it for this. I would assume the co-op will be brought into that. We can't do theirs specifically on their own. Same situation.
I want to speak to it
Yeah,
then.
go ahead.
They did cite a different section in the bylaw. However, he did state, as Brenda has alluded to, that the other businesses in the co-op mall actually share the portable sign. So they're using, co-op's using the electronic sign, and the portable sign is shared based on seasons by the other businesses. So I believe he's said Booster Juice, Chopped Leaf, and the accounting firm that was within the mall. And they've been doing that long before Booster Juice or Chopped Leaf even opened. Other businesses in there used it, and I would say for a good 10 years, to my recollection.
So, but is there not another one then that advertises A&D office supplies?
A&D account, is it accounting or bookkeeping, uses it during bookkeeping season. And then I've seen that it has been used by Booster Juice and Chopped Leaf.
Okay.
And I do believe splash sales, case lot sales for co-op.
So, we're motion to direct administration to bring back an amendment to the bylaw that would allow portable signs, and with some direction that we allow a portable sign, or is this some portable signs? Councillor Dubekov?
Well, I think we go back to the old system where we did allow portable signs. And then we added electronic signs, and we said, okay, well, if we're adding electronic, we'll eliminate the portable. So we just changed that back to we allow the mobile and the electronic.
Your worship, just for
Go ahead.
clarification, are we talking, as Kevin had asked, a mobile sign or a number of mobile signs per business? That will be key to the redevelopment of the bylaw.
One mobile sign, same as we had before.
Okay, so our direction back is we want to look at a amended bylaw that allows for a portable sign in addition to any business that has their electronic signs. Council? Okay, yeah. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And so on the co-op request is exactly the same situation. It doesn't matter if there's 11 businesses there, we need to vary the bylaw, and we're directing staff to bring that back. So that direction will be given, and we'll advise the co-op as well as the other delegation of that request. Do I need to do a separate motion, Brenda, for the co-op?
No, I don't believe so. This will cover it, and we'll just advise them.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Parslow, you had a motion that we were going to direct administration to bring back a report on the BC Hydro Fund and as it relates to their foundation, which hopefully will answer the question on that permissive tax that Fort St. John are doing.
Yes, really the inquiry is more about the Fort St. John permissive tax scheme and can we replicate it.
Yeah. Okay. Council, any further questions, comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Councillor Wilbur, you had a request that council would supply vests to the Aubert students that are working with the DC Recycling on the curbside recycling audit.
Yeah, so they'll be going out, checking recycle bins on recycle weeks for the next 3 months, and so it'd be nice if they could have some high-vis vests, just so, one, we can make people aware they're out there, and they all feel that, they're seen as well, so.
Thank you.
Total of 5. We have 5.
Further discussion? Councillor Parslow?
No.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Brenda?
And just the one more motion that Councillor Parzo had to refer discussion into the in-camera meeting.
Right. So we move to in-camera for the purpose of negotiation. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Anything further, Brenda, I had under delegation?
That's all I had.
And we have the CAO operational update.
A couple of things, Your Worship. We have obviously the flood of the, I think it was the 14th of June, Sunday. I want to say thank you, first of all, to the staff that were able to come out and attend to the challenges that we faced. We lost part of our road coming into the city on the 108th, the west end of town. Certainly it was coming through there at a high rapid rate. Also 17th Street by the Willowbrook Apartments was over cresting the road, as well as down by 17th Street and about 101st, right in that range, near 102nd Avenue. We escaped, I think, some significant challenges, but as was pointed out earlier, there was some significant flood damage to a number of homes, with whether it be the sanitary sewer or fresh water, but these are challenges. We have a sewer master plan that is in progress right now. There is ongoing work that's needed in order to catch up, but there will be on occasion times when Mother Nature overwhelms any system. I think if you look at what happened in Calgary, cars were underwater on the Deerfoot, for example. There's without question backups there. I do understand the concerns expressed by a number of people, though, that have experienced this, not for the first time, but possibly more than once. And we are going to work on those areas. We have a number that are in the master sewer plan already, for example, that would have corrected some of this. But again, it has been an issue of timing and finances to get all of this work done. There's been millions of dollars spent on the sewer system and the sanitary system over the years, but there's a great deal more to do, and the commitment from the city is clear that we are going to move forward to correct that. So I wanted to provide that for the residents that were impacted. Their message to us has certainly been heard. The other one, the Pride Crosswalk, Your Worship, continues to be an ongoing issue with some members of the public who seem to fancy trying to destroy it. It is interesting. I have an update from the RCMP. They do have a number of leads on this. Is far more than one person that has done this. There has been a number of people impact that sidewalk. Quite interesting. Apparently some don't recognize that there is a camera on there now, so they seem inclined to be wanting to do it while the camera is running, which is very helpful to the RCMP, and we have that ongoing right now, so we'll see what we can do there. There was an individual that approached the city requesting that he would fund through his business a new flagpole with a pride flag so that people couldn't do the type of damage we're seeing at the crosswalk. He is willing to fund it completely through his business as a citizen of the city, and that discussion is ongoing, Your Worship, as to location of where that flagpole should be. And we have some work to do, but again, many individuals have spoken on this that I've talked to through the city, quite concerned about what's taken place there, and the willingness to not only step up and try and repaint it on volunteer time, up to and including the installation of this new flagpole with the pride flag. So we're working on that.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Earl?
Just with requests, with respect to a couple emails we've gotten about timelines regarding the opening of the library. Now I know it's not necessarily up to us, as they have their own board of directors that have to figure out how they're going to comply with provincial government requirements, but if you could give some insight into that, just so that...
Certainly. The library is run by a board, as you stated, so it is not the city's jurisdiction to tell them when to open. That's why we have a board there. They have been in constant contact with the city, though. They've done an amazing job. They've looked at their approach on how they will go from where they're at today with a book drop-off, book pickup scenario that they managed to put in place, I thought, very quickly, up to and including the plan they have put in place for the reopening of the facility. They have to meet the provincial health orders in order to do what they want to do as far as reopening, but again, the emails that I seen, it's, we inform them that the process is the board's, so that's where it lies. But the board has done an amazing job, and we've worked with them, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thanks, Blair. Diary, anything?
Nothing new to report, Your Worship.
Consent calendar, nothing. Strategic priorities?
We will be going into strategic planning starting tomorrow, Your Worship.
Good.
2021.
Media question period. So we'll move to our committee of the whole, and our first is our staff sergeant, and we'll connect with him on the phone.
Hi, Damon.
Good morning, Damon. So we're just ready to move into our committee of the whole, and so we've got you first up, and the floor is yours.
Very good, thank you, Your Worship, and good morning, Worship Councillors. I regret that I wasn't able to be there in person. My apologies, I did try, but I appreciate the opportunity to call in and talk to you on the phone. I'll get into the policing report. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, it's great.
Perfect. Okay, so I'll get into the policing report. This report will be covering the period of May 2020. I'll start with the detachment resources. So for the period of May 2020, the detachment did not have any members leave or coming into the detachment. We remain fully staffed. We have no hard vacancies, and in fact, we're overstaffed by 2 positions, so we're surplus to establishment by 2. The reason that we're surplus to establishment is we're pre-planning for members that will soon be transferring out. We do have 6 soft temporary vacancies, and those are positions that are filled, but the members are not currently able to report to work. 2 of those are for maternity or paternity leave, and 4 are off-duty sick or injured. Moving to our annual policing plan priorities. Councillor Parcel, you had to ask me during the last 2 meetings, or meetings the whole part of me, the last one that I participated in anyways. You'd asked me about what I meant by how we were going to address some of these priorities. How are we going to address chronic and repeat offenders? How are we going to address property theft? They didn't really have a clear answer for you, other than giving you an answer that we're going to address it. There's more than one way to address the problem, or address the issue. So I have a little bit better answer for you now. So speaking to the policing priorities, in no particular order, the first priority is our repeating chronic offenders. So these are our offenders, not our prolific offenders. Our prolific offenders are our big crime people that are gang members, and they're the ones, they're managed under a prolific offender program. The repeating chronic offenders is intended to deal with the people that are causing us the most calls every year. The ones that are maybe stealing vehicles or breaking into vehicles, properties, or stealing property. So our objective was to identify, target, monitor, and address a minimum of 10 of our repeat chronic offenders, one are giving us the biggest amount of calls every year. The initiatives that we're going to do to address that is to research and analyze follow-up 2019, and first of all find out who those top 10 offenders are, who are the ones that are causing us the most strife, and to offer and submit an operational plan each quarter to target those individuals. And then we're going to identify applicable partners within the community or within the surrounding area across the province to work with those people and establish a system to provide an opportunity to provide and engage support services to repeat chronic offenders, to give them alternative options to crime. So when I said that we're going to address the problem, we're addressing it both reactively through enforcement, but we're also going to address it proactively by engaging support services. As you know, or as I'm sure you can expect, a lot of the people that we're dealing with, it's almost a revolving door. So we lay charges, we put them before the courts. In some cases, they do go to jail. They come back, and within the first week, they're back into a life of crime. So by engaging support services, perhaps we can give them some alternatives to getting back into life of crime. Perhaps it's addictions or homeless issues or having difficulties finding a job. So we'll see if we can focus on these top 10 people that are causing the most strife here in Dawson Creek and find some alternatives to them committing crime constantly, or at least give them that option. Moving on property theft, our objective was to reduce property theft or theft under $5,000 in Dawson Creek by 10%. We're going to do that by conducting a minimum of 3 community awareness initiatives, be that presentations or media releases to highlight how to prevent theft from reporting motor vehicle or theft of property. So I can tell you a lot of our thefts under $5,000, and speaking more to thefts from vehicles, we get a lot of calls about thefts from vehicles, and I would venture to guess 95%, if not 100% of those are from vehicles that are left unlocked. In many cases, those vehicles that are left unlocked are left with keys in them. So we can maybe educate the public and the community a little bit more about locking their vehicles and preventing the theft from occurring. They can say cut down those calls a lot because we don't really have people smashing windows to get into vehicles. It doesn't happen here. It's the vehicles that are left unsecured that they're entering and taking items of opportunity. The second initiative that we're going to deal with that for property theft is to identify and analyze our high theft areas in Dawson Creek and create strategic responses to address the issue in that particular area. So there seem to be particular areas in Dawson Creek and City of Dawson Creek or in the surrounding area that see these high crime areas. Again, I'm speaking a little bit more to the theft from motor vehicles. We'll identify where those areas are, and we'll create a plan to deal with it in that particular area. Whether that's maybe foot patrols with our COP volunteers or some kind of increased visibility in that particular area. I'll report more on that as we move through the year, but that's where we're moving with that. Our third priority plan, our annual priority plan, was to address the issue of drugs in the community and surrounding area. And specifically what came up during our public consultations, our town hall, was drug houses. The drug houses that are the residences in the Dawson Creek areas that are being used to sell drugs. So we wanted to identify, target, monitor, and address a minimum of 10 drug houses or buildings which are being used in our area to sell illicit drugs. We're going to do that by, first of all, establishing training and mentoring in the area, working with confidential informants and drug search warrants for our members, and then conduct a review of the 2019 files and identify top 5 lists of our drug dealers in the area and target those dealers. So I can tell you, I'll touch on this a little later on in my report, but we've already, through April and May, we've already completed 5 search warrants that were drug related. So we've done 5 search warrants on houses, or in 2 instances, hotel rooms in which people were selling drugs out of. The last policing plan priority is to improve community relations or increase police visibility in the Dawson Creek area. We wanted to participate or create police visibility in a minimum of 15 community events within the Dawson Creek region. We're going to do that by identifying and participating in community events and documenting those interactions. I think a lot of this comes from us just not really reporting back to the community or to the council perhaps on what we're actually doing in the community, because the numbers are actually quite involved. We're going to do that by creating or generating at least 2 police-led community relations events, and by dropping the monthly media release again to get that news out there about what we're doing in the community. So you're going to see a little bit more in the news about what we're doing in our community, both with community relations or maybe just positive work that we're doing. Moving over to crime trend reporting. So for calendar year, so January 1st, 2020 to May 31st, 2020, we've taken a total of 3,113 calls for service. That's a decrease of 16% compared to last year for the same time period. Of those, 79% were within the city and 21% were within the rural surrounding area. That's standard again for the last 5 years. That really hasn't changed. Compared with the last year for the same time period, this works out to a decrease of calls for service within the city of 16% and a decrease of calls for service within the rural surrounding area by 18%. So we're continuing that downward trend in calls for service both within the city and the surrounding rural area. Speaking to our specific crime groups that I've listed for you, we're seeing decreases pretty much across the board. You'll notice that there's a large, substantial increase in drug possession, drug trafficking crimes or calls for service. Specifically, we've seen an increase of 233% in drug possession or drug trafficking. And I can attribute that to more intense enforcement on behalf of the RCMP staff. And as I said, over April and May, we've done 5 search warrants that are drug related or under the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act. So we're focusing on that more, we're addressing it more, and because of that, you're seeing an increase in our calls for service relating to drug possession or drug trafficking. PDO Lexstrom briefly touched on the rainbow crosswalk there. I can provide pretty much the same information that Blair did. The crosswalk was damaged, the rainbow crosswalk was damaged, I believe it was June 4th, by several vehicles, at least 3, on the same day that it was painted. We did locate one of those vehicles that were involved. We did issue a fine to that driver relating to an offense that was discovered at the time of that traffic stop. So we have at least 2 other vehicles that were involved, have not yet been identified. We received several names from the community as well as yourself, Mr. Mayor, and through CAO Lexstrom as well. But our investigations determined the names that came through the community and through your office were not involved. So the investigation is still open, and we're not closing it, we're pursuing it, and it's our goal to identify the drivers that were involved and how to proceed with criminal or motor vehicle act charges. The RCMP was due to conduct or chair an interagency meeting here in May or June. I am aware of that. I was on hold waiting to see what was going on with the COVID pandemic, and I can report that I'm going to start planning the next interagency meeting here over the next few weeks. Most likely it'll have to be done online or some kind of teleconferencing, but I'll come up, we'll discuss that, and I'll report back on how we're going to do that. If last thing I'll finish up with is our front counter services. So as of right now, our front counter services do still remain closed. I've been working with EDIB RCMP and North District RCMP on coming out with a plan to reopen. I submitted our reopening plan last week on Wednesday, and I expect that we'll be coming out with a plan on how we're going to reopen and how we're going to be able to offer those services that we have had on hold throughout the pandemic. So as soon as I have the information on that, I'll be able to report back to you. Any questions? That's all I have for you right now.
Thank you, Damon. Councillor Wilbur.
Hi, Damon. Thank you very much for the verbal report. I'm just looking at the attachment, and it's for April, so I don't know if that's on our end but could we get an updated copy for me?
Yeah, through your worship, administration did upload.
I'm looking at the same report I have made.
Sorry, administration did upload the incorrect report, and we've just emailed you the correct report.
Perfect, thank you. The numbers weren't jiving for me, and
Our
I was
apologies.
feeling confused. Thank you.
Any further questions for Damon? Blair?
Your worship, maybe, Damon, you mentioned that we are still at 2 surplus to establishment. Can you just tell me who funds those 2 surplus? Is it the province?
Yes. So you'll recall me explaining before, so when a member is off duty for more than 30 days, their funds, the city no longer pays for those members. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sorry, I'm looking at a video of the live stream right now, and you're still talking, so obviously this is delayed. So, I'm watching you guys as I'm talking to you on the phone. My apologies. So you'll remember, when a member is off duty for 30 days, they are no longer paid by the city. The city no longer covers their expenses, and they're moved to, it's a fund that's funded on behalf of both federal governments and provincial governments. So right now we have 6 soft vacancies. One of those rural positions is rural, 5 of those are municipal. So right now you're not paying for 5 municipal police officers. So the numbers that are in surplus to establishment now come out of those funds. So you're not paying any more for policing. As a matter of fact, you're actually going to be paying less because with those surplus establishment by 2, you're still not paying for 3 members that are not on the city budget. Does that make sense? Or?
So Damon, we can talk offline. My only concern would be if we had a full establishment and the city of Dawson Creek still had 2 surplus to establishment, then our costs would go up with that explanation.
Absolutely, but I am so very careful to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Okay, we'll talk later.
Thank you, David.
The alternative is we run hard vacancies. And I'm really trying not to do that anymore, so.
Thank you. Councillor Earl.
Just now that I've got the actual report in front of me, I just wanted to compliment you on the strategic priorities you guys have come up with. As someone who was at that public meeting you held, there was quite the deluge of information and feedback, and some of it helpful and some of it not, and I think you've done a very good job in distilling that down into manageable, actionable plans. So I just wanted to compliment you guys on that.
I appreciate that, Councillor. Thanks very much. I mean, that was the first time they've ever done a public meeting like that. It was an interesting experience, but I learned a lot of information, and we were able to take that and build that into our priority plan. So,
thank you. Thank you, Damon. Appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you, Worship Councillors, and I think this is probably the last time I'll be before you now until October, so have a good summer. But don't be afraid to stop at the expertise attachment to come see me there. And I don't know if you've seen the building. I'd be happy to take you for a tour. There's also provisions for me to take you for a ride along if that at all interests you. So let me know, stay in contact, and hopefully we can meet throughout the summer here until our next meeting in October.
Thank you, Damon. I'm sure you'll get some interest by the look.
I gotta buy some new aviators, but I'm in.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a great day. Report 14.2, we have a report from our corporate officer. Good morning, Brenda.
Good morning, how are you?
Very good.
Happy belated Father's Day.
Thank you.
What about me?
Everyone.
Oh, everyone.
Yes.
Even us.
I just have a couple of highlights from my report. Procurement, council chambers, we have posted for the audio video system. So we've been plugging along with this one, trying to fix little tweaks along the way, and hopefully we'll come up with a new system that's reasonably and cost effective. The next item I wanted to bring up was NDIT has widened their funding in response to COVID and just reduced their restrictions on there's no more matching funding required just for 2020, and renovations can be made in interior, like plexiglass, and there's been quite a few businesses that have taken advantage of this already. About $8,000 already provided to businesses just to install anything that they need to in relation to COVID. And also Silverado is taking advantage of the business facade program just to update the outside of their building, so they'll be getting $5,000 to help with that. Some sad news, our grant writer is leaving us, so we're advertising for a new grant writer, and we've got 3 applications received for that, so we'll be filling that soon. And the last item I wanted to bring up is just our in-camera resolution is just going to include the topic of discussion now, which is a change of past practice, just to provide a more open accountability from council.
Thank you, Brenda. Councillor Parzel.
Just want to talk about the grant writer.
Okay.
So when do you hope to complete the process of selection?
We're hoping to do it within a week.
Now, will that person immediately get training through NDIT? Is that how it works?
The training is not through NDIT. We're hoping to have them work with the current grant writer for a few days. And also we have one staff person that has previous experience as well. And also we have one employee that coming back from maternity leave in August that used to be our grant writer, so there's assistance there as well. And any courses that the grant writer would take are claimable through the NDIT grant funding, so that helps them as well.
Thank you. Further questions? Brenda, on the grant writer, it said in the last month their grant writer has assisted 4 groups. 3 of them are groups that I would consider to be outside of the city of Dawson Creek. Mm-hmm. So would they not go to the PRRD for access to the grant writer there for that service?
We could redirect them, but she does have her priorities. First is city grants, then inside the city, and then if there's available time, it can go outside.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Further questions? Thank you, Brenda.
Welcome.
14.3, we have the report from our Chief Financial Officer. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Thank you. I just would like to update a couple of things. One is about the property tax collection. When I prepared this report, it was 22%. As of Friday, we collected 31% so far. We have another 4% in the process of considered, which can be mortgage payment that's still being released. So we are talking about 8 million received. Just also another breakdown, 36% of that is coming from residential, and 28% is the business. So that's how much they have paid so far from the total property tax. Regarding to hog claims, 44% out of the expected 1,619 claims. And so far, 6 tax deferment requested. So this is until last Friday. We're gonna have our 2021 strategic meeting tomorrow and Wednesday, so we're starting our process. And then an update about the cybersecurity. The investigation has been concluded and there is no evidence of unauthorized access to personal information as a result of this incident. We are currently working with the IT team to strengthen the controls, issue further policies and procedures so that to maintain the city's electronic data protection and appropriated safeguards. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Flavia. Any questions? On the kindness meters, who's administering that now and how is that being, because I thought we do them, are we doing them annually now? And so will that take place at the end of the year for this year's, yes?
Yeah, it's our communication clerk that looks after that role, and there will be advertisements out. And anybody that submitted their group's name there'll be a draw.
Okay, good. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Flavia. Appreciate it. And that, I just want to, 36% of what we've collected so far has come from residential and 28% has come from commercial?
Yes, so the total assessed residential in property tax, 36% has been collected, and for business, 28%.
Okay, good. It'll be interesting to see the commercial ones, how that transitions through July and August.
Yes, yes, that's what we are trying to closely monitor to see.
Interesting is one adjective.
Thank you, Flavia. 14.4, we have a report from the General Manager of Development Services. Morning, Kevin.
Good morning. So I'll just provide you a quick update on a few of the projects that we got underway, and then also the rain event we had past weekend, and we'll have time for some questions. So currently we've got 15th Street construction. There was a bit of a delay, as council's well aware. There was an incident on site, so that delayed, and then along with the rain put some further delay into the project, but they are back working today on 15th Street between 102 and Alaska. They're doing some excavating. They're also working on the previous block of 105 to 102, completing some utility work, so that's underway. So hopeful that now that things are kind of pointed in the right direction, we'll start making up some of the lost time. 107th Avenue sewer project is coming to a close. So that project was just replacing an old existing sewer line that was in failing condition. And just to note, it was identified on the sewer master plan as well. So that's another one off the list. Once that project's done, that contractor will be moving over to in behind the hospital on 10th Street, which will be installing a new sanitary sewer line, which again was identified in the sanitary master plan. And when that line is installed, it should greatly assist those residents that were affected a week ago on 111th, 112th area. So I'll speak a little bit more about that when we talk about the rain event. We did, a few weeks back actually, go into Chamberlain Park and remove some large woody debris from the creek area, just in anticipation of June and the rain events, and so that was done, and That project is really to remove anything that might choke off culverts at 17th Street crossing. Downstream of 17th, we have bridge networks, and it's not as critical, so that's why we concentrated in that upstream of 17th area. What else we got here? Might as well discuss our water event that occurred on last weekend. So as we've, I've had a lot of discussions over the last week with staff and kind of going over the event. Every event is a little bit different and has its own nuances, but generally it's the same situation. We started off with some very heavy rains in the early Sunday that overwhelmed portions of the sanitary sewer network, and the reason that occurred is a couple things. Is you've got inflow and infiltration into the system by ways of sump pumps or weeping tiles, which a majority of our community is connected that way. The land was already saturated from the previous week's rainfalls, so even before that rain started, you would have had significant amount of groundwater going into those weeping tiles and sump pumps that are connected to the sanitary system. So that's providing additional load. When we get that heavy rain, obviously with saturated ground, it goes in there and the system, the weeping tile and the sump pumps do what they're supposed to do and get rid of the water. Unfortunately, they put it into the sanitary system. When they do that, it overloads the system, and you've got certain areas of the network that become overwhelmed and then ultimately start backing up into some low-lying properties or low areas, basements. So we had a number of properties affected. I've got an updated list today. I think there was around 57 that were affected in some nature. I haven't gone through the list to see the extent of it, but the mayor had reached out and asked everybody to call in, and just so we can understand exactly where those properties are. And that way we can start to identify some strategies moving forward. So again, of note is that we had all those sanitary sewer backups occurred early Sunday into the afternoon Sunday, and the creeks at that point had not got to any point of overtopping roads. The South Dawson overtopped 108th just before 8 p.m. on Sunday. 17th Street was shortly thereafter. And then it overtopped 17th near 102 on the north, on the main stem of the Dawson Creek at about 6 in the morning on Monday. And 102nd Avenue did not quite overtop, although there was a little bit of water, but that was coming up through the storm sewer system. So the two creeks reacted in different ways at different times, which was good. But again, the sewer backups had already occurred many hours prior to that. So combination of overland, infiltration, those heavy rainfalls, it's a combination of things that cause this, and it's also going to be a combination of solutions that's going to, moving forward, that's going to be employed to try and solve a lot of it. So no lack of challenges. As Blair indicated earlier, we've spent a significant amount on sanitary sewer to try and offset some of these problems. I think we were in the neighborhood of over 20 million over the last number of years. That's helped some folks, but it hasn't helped everybody, and we still got some more work to do. So we'll continue on that. And so if you got any questions, Chelsea's here as well, and she did an incredible amount of work kind of monitoring the creek as it was occurring. We've got a significant amount of photos and data that each time that this occurs is very helpful for us to drive decision making moving forward. So yeah, any questions.
Thanks, Kevin. Councillor Parslow.
One piece of infrastructure that is in a temporary location right now that was very close to being underwater is that walking bridge in Kin Park that was put in when the 10th Street was. It might be wise to remove that and store it safely so it can be relocated where it was intended when other issues are solved, because that was very dangerously close to being submerged and I imagine possibly dislodged. I just don't know. If the water went over it, would it dislodge it, in your opinion?
Well, I would certainly put it at risk.
Yes.
So it came up, I think, right to the underside of that bridge. So
yes, it did.
We had blocked it off at that point in time, and you're right. I mean, it was left in, and we knew it wasn't up to the 200, floodplain levels. But yeah, something to revisit.
There's another question. The sewer that's being put in, almost completed, and then they'll move to another location. Does that sewer line have increased capacity?
So the one they're currently working on was regraded and has some increased capacity, strictly by nature of newer pipe. The old one was concrete pipe and it was in pretty rough shape. So the new pipe will have increased capacity. The one on the backside of the hospital, what we'll be doing there is rerouting upstream flows. So instead of that flow coming from the Trombley and kind of southwest area, it all funnels down through backside of the hospital and then down the laneway behind 111th and 112th to 8th Street to get to the trunk main. We'll be intercepting that on 10th and directing it to the trunk main at 110th in Kin Park. So all those upstream flows will not be going through that pipe in the lane between 111 and 112. So that should greatly assist those folks.
One last thing, and I'll let somebody else, is there must have been some significant pressure in that sewer system because whilst I suspect that some people might not have backflow valves installed, others say that their valves were blown out. Literally, I don't know. Anyway, they failed, right? Councillor Javatkov and I were chatting about this, I think it was yesterday, and I made the statement, and Paul rightly questioned the statement, but I'm sure that somebody said that a manhole cover was dislodged through pressure, and is there any truth to that? And do you want to speak a bit about that? Where was that?
I can't recall the exact location, but that will occur, whether it's storm sewer or sanitary sewers. So when you get the hydraulic grade lines to a point that it's actually above the street, there is enough force that the water will want to lift those lids and come out. And so that does occur on occasion.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Kevin. Anything further for Kevin? Kevin, how's the raw water supply? Like the new one we built and all of them, are they near capacity now?
Yeah, we're in really good shape. Last I remember looking, the South Dawson was pushing 90%, high 80% fill rate. So it's almost there. Everything else is good. So we're in pretty good shape.
Is it starting now are we starting now the overall operation of that entire system of supply, now having added that significant reservoir in?
So it's going to be, a learning process as we go. So our focus primarily has been filling it and getting that fill. And then it'll be managing it and understanding how far we can draw it down and fill it back up, because we need to move some water in and out of there. So, you don't want it sitting in there for great lengths of time. Also, having it full will assist with some of the wind erosion that we were getting, and that creates turbidity. So we saw some of that. So once it gets vegetated and a little more established, that will come down. But yeah, it'll be a bit of a process, but I mean, it's a good problem to have. We've got a significant storage now.
And so I'm assuming now, has that changed then the impacts of pumping and during high turbidity times and all of that now? We haven't seen any of that because we've just been concentrating on
Yeah.
flow.
But we, even
Filling.
this spring during high turbidity, we shut the pumps off. It's not worth filling a reservoir or anything else with a bunch of dirty water. So we traditionally shut that down for a period of time during freshet when it's quite turbid. So, but it will give us options.
And the Kiskatna is still flowing strong
Oh yeah.
over the weir? And
Yeah, obviously right now with how wet it's been, definitely it's running strong. But again, for the last, I'm going to say 3 years, Chelsea could probably correct me if I'm wrong, but it's been running all winter over the weir, which is something that we hadn't seen, in the years previous. It's interesting how the first 10 years in this position I was in, we were really focused on drought. In the last 5 or 6 years, it's been a bit of a different story. We've had much wetter type of weather, so but it'll change again.
Thanks, Kevin. Councillor Parslow, you had one more?
Another question more towards the finance side. The sewer utility, is there a operational side to that and a capital side, or is it just one lump sum fund? Both. Because when people's charges, there's a blend of capital, isn't it, and then operational.
And infrastructure charge as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
So our infrastructure side we didn't adjust that. We just adjust the operating side this year, didn't we? We reduced the sewage, utility this year, because council was told it was in a healthy position. When that statement was made, was that just referencing the operating side of that utility? Or
Infrastructure. Was the infrastructure.
it was
What
the...
we reduced, yes.
Okay, we'll talk more about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you.
Thank you.
14.5, we have the report from our General Manager of Community Services. Morning, Ross. Welcome.
Good morning, Your Worship, members of council. So I'll just touch briefly on COVID and our return to activities, or slow return to activities. The council is aware that our parks and playgrounds, trails, what have you, are open at this point in time. We just opened our registration for some minimized outdoor children's activities and camps. That registration opened on the 22nd, or not 22nd, 19th rather. So we will start. Interesting to see. We've had a lot of protocols. We've worked very hard with Northern Health to determine those protocols. It will be interesting to see what the feedback is from parents and I guess the trust level generally to see how those numbers will go. We are working still with Northern Health and the province to plan for reopening of indoor facilities, the swimming pool, the arenas. I don't envision those types of things happening in the very near future, but there are a number of sport governing organizations that are very keen, if you will. Hockey Canada as an example, to get back to play. So we're working very cautiously and with the province's protocols to determine what that might look like. There was a question earlier, and I tried to rush in to help Blair out with this, but have been working with organizations who operate and lease facilities from us, i.e. the library, KPAC, the visitor center, and those sorts of groups. I'm getting good responses and have begun to receive exposure control plans from those groups. We've also submitted an addendum to all these lease agreements that will have these groups understand and appreciate and sign off on the fact that they are responsible to not only to have their own exposure control plan in place, but to honor and respect the city's exposure control plan and those of the provincial health authorities. So we have currently I've got plans and waiting for signatures from, in fact, I think the art gallery is complete, and I believe they are opening today. KPAC has suggested they will probably open early July. The visitor center, same, early July. And the library, Pam has had some fantastic information back and forth. They are open on a kind of an interim measure as we speak, and anticipate that they will be open early July as well. In terms of safety, Council approved a new safety policy this morning. That is really keeping up with the provincial legislation that we approve a new policy each year, and as part of that policy was submitted going forward, we will update and present a new policy. However, Blair will be able to sign off on that on an annual basis. Safety Department has been working diligently with all our departments, resuming operation safety plans, ensuring that there's a safe return to work protocol for all our staffing. And finally, we just late last week hosted, in conjunction with the BC Municipal Safety Authority, a shoring and excavation training program with staff that also included local contractors, and I think that's probably one of the first opportunities where we've engaged the people that we work with on a daily basis to know and understand these protocols. So there were some technical challenges. It was a virtual situation, but understand that went very, very well. Earlier this year, Council approved an amended fire and emergency services level of service policy that enabled us to manage callback protocols more efficiently, as well as we negotiated with the IAFF to suspend Article 403, which is our call out that's paid. The fire department has submitted and prepared in the report today a brief illustrating how suppression-related overtime has been reduced for the first 3-month period since the new policy came into effect. The calculations reflect up-to-date 2020 incidents and applies the new overtime rate schedule and response model to these incidents. Along with this information, the 2019 response model and overtime rate schedule has been used to show those costs against the actual incidents that occurred in 2020. In the attachments that you have before you, you will see an approximate reduction in overtime of $54,000. So I think it's fairly safe to say that those measures have been pretty significant. It is important to note that as a result of COVID-19, we have had far fewer incidences reported, and the hall has been somewhat more quiet. I have asked the chief and the deputy chief to attend this morning, so if there are further questions on the new fire department statistics, or any other questions for that matter, happy to answer those. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ross. I have one question, and maybe not for today, but I wouldn't mind if we can have the chief and the deputy and yourself, I wouldn't mind getting an update on the fire training center. We invested about $1 million in that thing 3 years ago or 4 years ago, and it would be, I think, worthwhile for council to get an update on that in terms of what kind of activity, what it's impacting our operating budget with respect to costs of training, as well as that reach out to our other communities to look at it as a bit of a revenue center. So I wouldn't mind if we can, as I say, not for today, but for our next committee of the whole perhaps, to get an update on the fire training center.
Certainly, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Parswell?
I mean, I was pleased, but on the one hand, a little shocked as well to learn that in the near future, you didn't say the immediate future, that the swimming pool could become operational. I just can't envisage that. I'm a fairly regular user of the swimming pool. Can you talk more about how it seems to be emerging? How would it operate?
Thank you, through your worship. When I say future, I don't envision that the swimming pool would open before fall. Right now, the protocols at the pool are interesting in that the chlorine, the pool, our circulation and filtration systems would knock down that virus. However, there are so many touch points through the front desk and through the dressing rooms. The information that we have received would suggest that facilities who may be closer to us in opening will not be using dressing rooms. That it would be a situation where you would come to the swimming pool in your flip-flops and your shorts and your towel and come straight through the main doors into the pool area. There would be restrictions on the number of users in the pool at any given time. There are certainly would be restrictions on the steam room as an example. It's not a facility we would probably open. The swim club as an example, if we were to open the pool for the swim club, they would have to adhere to their own protocols. We likely could not have another group in the aquatic center at the same time based on numbers. And then there would likely be a necessity to clean or disinfect the swim center before another group has come in. So I've been working with staff and I've had some conversations with Blair to say that, you know, we're really trying to determine a business case to say, yes, we could open in a limited capacity, but this would be the cost. So there's a bit of a trade-off. When I say we are planning, we've been working with other members of the BC Recreation and Parks Association and just about on a daily basis speaking with other municipalities and looking at plans and the Life Saving Society. So I don't envision anything in the very near future.
No, you did say that. I was pleased that I didn't foresee being able to go swimming for a couple of years, right? And news today about what's happened in Australia and South Korea makes me, you know, we talk about wave 2, well, they're saying that it's there now. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions for Ross? Ross, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So with that concludes our open. We'll recess now to closed and have a break. Move, Councillor Kemp. Second, Councillor Wilbur. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. So we'll take a